What's up, everyone? Welcome, Normal America Show host robnoerr. How is everyone? Are we're still kicking? Everything good? I'm doing good. I had a very good day. I slept like 60 hours. No, I'm just kidding. I was actually in the psychiatric center. No. I did sleep. I almost streamed last night, but instead I did some stuff around the house and then went to bed early. But this is not the I'm speaking now segment. That's Sundays. I can't do that segment on whatever today is. What is today? Tuesday? Come on. It's great to be back actually talking politics and not doing stupid whip wheel songs. Great. If you missed it, in order to say thank you to the crazy folks in my chat and in our community that likes to donate money to play whip songs, we did that for 28 hours straight. I think the final total was like 520 something songs played. It was fun or crazy, however you want to look at it. I'll say this. As much as it was an insane endeavor, at least I got to do it with you insane crazy people. So, you know, we're okay. We made it through. We're plowing ahead. I got a story today. We got one story. Obviously, we could bump into other stuff, but we got a video to watch today. About 2-hour testimony on Artic Frost coming out of the Senate. Yeah, I was up for 28 hours at the damn computer. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to cover that. But first, hope everyone had a great day. I had a very good day. So since you last saw me, I did sleep like 11 hours and then had pretty normal day yesterday. Hank saw a video somewhere, and it's these two guys. I don't know where he saw this. It's these two guys. They're like, it seems like it's geared more for teenagers. I think they're like Mr. Beast buddies or something. Anyways, in this particular video, and he is like obsessed with it, they are working with chocolate. And so the theme of the video is, it's like, I don't know, 30, 40-minute video. And the theme of the video is they keep doing more and more ridiculous things with chocolate. So it starts off and it's like a chocolate fountain. They're making like chocolate-covered strawberries. And then it goes into like chocolate bark. And then chocolate bubble gum, chocolate cotton candy. They do like hand mold of chocolate. They make a chocolate bowl with like a balloon. And then they do like chocolate aged steak. So he is convinced that for Easter coming up, he wants to do some chocolate stuff. He wants to do chocolate fruit, which we were like, fine. But he's made it into a competition. And so he has told my wife that it's going to be me and Hank versus my wife and her mother, and who could make the best chocolate dessert. And I'm going to get my ass kicked. I am not much of a cooker. That's not what I do. And my wife and her mom are very good. And so now I got to suck it up and come up with something to help my son. I don't know how to tell him he's picked the exact wrong partner. But we're going to power through. So I'm very excited. And he's had me watch this video like 3 times with him, like to study. He's into it. So I got to put up a good chunk. He really wants to make its blueberry bark. All it looked like to me was like, imagine that you line blueberries up almost like an egg. It kind of looks like an egg carton, like side by side. And then they just poured like milk chocolate over it and then froze it. He's into the idea. He likes blueberries, and he thinks that's going to be the victory. So we're gonna see what happens. That's my big Easter project with the man. But yeah, I'm probably gonna get crushed here. It's all right. It's all right. We're gonna do our best. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Just buy professional ones, swap them out at the last minute. Smart. Nah, we'll lose together. What's up, Wade? Still kicking. So peanut butter chocolate Buckeyes. Yeah, my wife makes those. They're very good. So, diabetes be damned. We're going in for broke. Now, we're going to jump right in tonight. We're not going to mess around too much. So, here's what I'll say. Thank you so much. The dono, very generous on the Wave Bugs, Whip Stravaganza. You guys were very generous. I really appreciate it. I did some math, and I think, I shit you not, I typed a bunch of stuff. I might have screwed it up, but I put a bunch of stuff into my calculator on my phone to see how much I made an hour. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you the number that came up was like $357.23 an hour is what I made, which is pretty damn good. So 28 hours. But how weird is that? After all was said and done, we basically made $357 an hour. Tonight, as with every night, the discounted whip songs are done. If I never hear a fucking whip song again in my life, I'll be happy. So the rules go back to normal. $100 to request to spin the whip wheel, $150 to request a specific song, and $250 to create a new one. So, no $20 bullshit. No, well, can we collectively? No. Regular rules. Regular rules. So, I appreciate you all. Once a year is all I can handle that crazy bullshit. So, that's it. I lost. I'm salty about the loss. 28 hours. I thought for sure the audience would peter out before me. It seemed unhealthy to continue past that point. So, that's it. It was fun. I believe the whole video should be up on Rumble. I did not take it off YouTube. YouTube does this weird thing. If you stream for over 12 hours, it like screws up the live stream, the repeat of it. So there you go. That's what was going on. All right. Today, we're going to be talking about the hearing in Congress about Artic Frost. So this is right up my alley. Let's be honest about Donald Trump. He's not perfect. And there's a lot that you could reasonably complain about Trump in his first term and his second term. There are things I agree with. There are things I disagree with. But to me, regardless of what you think of Trump, if you think he is the greatest president ever, if you think that he's pretty good, but he's fighting an uphill battle, if you think that he's a piece of shit covering up for horrible crimes for Israel, or that he slipped up and now he's Israel first, or you think that he always was a plant, a deep state plant, whatever the case may be, and your mileage may vary, that's not what we're here to talk about today. For me, I feel like there was some moral clarity with the Trump election in 2016 to show just how bad the stakes are. Now, you can see it all throughout our system. You can see it with the Somali welfare fraud. You can see it with the hospice stuff in California. You can see it with just like the massive budgets that we see in places like California where there's like more homeless people than anyone. You can see it in the legal system. Well, all these lower courts that are overruling Trump and then get overruled at higher levels, or how, depending on it, like, it's the exact inversion of what we're told, that if you happen to be a white person, you commit some crime, they'll throw the book at you, but if you're a person of color or an illegal, etc., then they go as soft as possible. To me, though, when you see just like how blatant some of this stuff is, particularly when it comes to utilizing positions of power, it gives me a moral clarity that I see, that I've been able to capture, sort of getting a bunch of stories right, understanding just how corrupt the system is from the top down. It's one of the reasons that I'm more antithetical to the pro-establishment, trust the experts crowd, the appeal to authority crowd, than I am even some of the more insane progressive people. Because to me, what I see is, although there is a fundamental truth that humanity is about hierarchies and we should trust people in certain hierarchies on certain things. For example, you trust your mechanic more than yourself when it comes to what's wrong with your car. You trust your doctor. That stuff should all be true. We should all be able to do that. The problem is, what's happened is, it's no longer the competent or the people that are on merit that are at the top of these systems. Many of these systems have become corrupt. And we fight against people that have this constant appeal to authority. As long as the people in positions of authority tell us something, then we just have to default to it. So if everyone in academia tells us illegal immigration is great, it's great for the country, then when it doesn't matter that we all experience, that we all see how shitty it is, people just your opponents just point to the studies. All the academics say it's good. And you could be like, but if it's so good, how come even when we send illegals to the most left-wing places like Martha's Vineyard, they can't wait to get them the fuck out? Why is that? If walls don't work, why are they putting up walls? It doesn't matter. Trust the experts. Shut your mouth. And all this shit that we can see with our own eyes. The experts tell us that there's no competitive advantage to men. The experts tell us that the virus could spread at a Trump rally, but not at a Black Lives Matter rally. The experts tell us that most of the violence is from right-wing sources. The experts tell us that migration's all good and they're better Americans than the actual Americans that are here. You see it everywhere. And to me, there's no more blatant, clarifying thing to me, and maybe it's because I'm weird and I just take an interest in these sort of things, than Crossfire Hurricane. For me, whatever you think of Trump, know this. Either it was the most elaborate theater ever presented to us, that Trump was an insider and they pretended to spy on him and all this shit, which I don't believe, or regardless of what you think of Trump and he's the greatest or he sold out or whatever, Barack Obama's FBI and our institutions decided that they were going to wage all-out war on the incoming president of the United States. And if you go back and you look at the scope of this, it makes sense. There was a populist uprising around the world. And two things happened around this time: Brexit and Trump. So both in Europe and in the United States, in the first world, people started to say, we've had enough of our fucking government. We don't like it anymore. It sucks. We're willing to try something radically different. Doesn't mean that thing radically different is guaranteed to work, but we've had it with the current system as it is. And the elite said, no, thank you. No. We don't like that. We saw what they did with Brexit. Again, Brexit, which is another show entirely, but just to let you know, there was more mass migration to the United Kingdom post-Brexit. And the entire theme of Brexit was, we don't want more mass migration. That's what the UK said. So, fine, we'll give you Brexit. We're going to make it as painful as possible, and we're still going to mass import people. Here in the States, it was the election of Trump. All right, that's what you want? Fine. Then we're going to use every mechanism possible to stop this man, to railroad his agenda. Now, maybe you say, hey, I didn't think his agenda was that great. Hey, he made a lot of unforced errors. Yeah, well, that's true. Okay. To some degree. But the corruption of how they utilize the very systems that we're told that we have to have faith in, the FBI, the media, the State Department, is unbelievable. We say that the seminal issue for corruption in this country was Watergate, where a few bumbling fools, by the way, seems to be a setup, CIA ops that were allegedly working for Nixon, but whatever. Let's tell the story as the official version. Some people working for Nixon went through his opponent's papers at a hotel. Now imagine instead of that, instead of a few people going through papers, you had the entirety of the FBI spying at the behest of one political party against the other, based on information that was purchased, disinformation, mind you, by that political opposition. I've said this since 2017. This is of a scale so much bigger than Watergate, it's absurd. And it happened, and they got away with it. The biggest story in this country for 4 years was that Trump colluded with Russians. And it was all bullshit. More and more we find how corrupt it was every day. Will anyone ever be held accountable? We'll see. Apparently, there are people being subpoenaed in Florida right now. I won't hold my breath. But that's a story to cover for another day. So, we had a weaponized FBI. We had reports that came out. We had, admittedly, at least 2 FISA warrants that were illegal. The scope of that is insanity. FISA warrants, which are used to treat Americans as if they are hostile foreign spies, to shred their Fourth Amendment, that allows not just spying on that person, but everyone that person communicated with and everyone they communicated with, that gave them access to all of the communications within the Trump team. Illegal. Wood's procedures violated 200-something times, 17, according to Horowitz, the Inspector General, 17 sort of crisis, really bad things that occurred with it. Not the least of which were, 1, a top FBI lawyer changing an email to the opposite of the truth. Said, yes, Carter Page worked for the CIA. He changed it to say no, given a slap on the wrist by Judge Boasberg. By the way, incidentally, Kevin Kleinsmith, that lawyer, turns out, guess what he got up to a couple years later? Going after Trump people, forging information on FISA warrants again. That guy's back to practicing law. Meanwhile, attorneys that did nothing wrong that worked with Trump have been disbarred. Then we also had the fact that Horowitz said, as bad as that was, what was even more shocking was that after, I believe, the second FISA warrant, the word slips me right now, but the primary source, the number one primary source, a suspected at one point Russian spy, Igor Dushenko, where many of these salacious comments came from that were later found out to be untrue, was interviewed by the FBI. Took him 2 warrants before they actually interviewed the primary subsource. And he's like, well, that was just rumors and innuendo. I can't prove any of this. And the FBI went back to the FISA court and said, we talked to the subsource and we believe him. But they did not tell the court that what they talked to him about and what they believed was he was saying, it's basically all bullshit. They left that part out. So imagine, just to clarify here, if Wade Boggs told me that Black Elk told him that Are We Not Men robbed a bank. And I go to Black Elk, and Black Elk says, yeah, that's bullshit. But I tell you all, hey, everybody, Wade Boggs said that Are We Not Men robbed a bank. He said Black Elk told him that. And then I said, and I talked to Black Elk, and I believe him. And you'd say, oh, no shit? Black Elk saying that? I say, oh, no. What I believe is Black Elk said it was bullshit. I just left that part out. It's the opposite of the truth. Horowitz said he was shocked. No consequences. Now, we've gone over this ad nauseum on the channel, and I've debated left-winger after left-winger. For me, it was the biggest political scandal in the history of this country. We literally weaponized the most powerful law enforcement system in the history of this country as a tool for the Democratic Party to go after their opposition, and stymied a president of the United States duly elected for 4 fucking years with this story. Then when it turned out to all be bullshit, it was, oh well, on to the next thing. Turns out there was Russia collusion. Hillary's team colluding with a, at one point, suspected Russian spy. All of a sudden, all those people that were shouting about the importance of pushing back against Russia collusion, they didn't have shit to say. That Russia collusion was no big deal. This story is so ridiculous. We then had another inspector look at this, Durham, who at one point in his summary said, it's not even a matter of changing policy at the FBI. That basically the culture is so corrupt. I don't know if he used the word corrupt. It was so bad that it's not even about changing an individual policy. Now, I did a debate recently with Destiny about whether or not, as more information came out about whether or not what Obama knew, did he change the intel reports to try to say that Russia wanted Trump to win, etc. And at the end of that debate, he says, when I'm talking about how the FBI corruptly started this investigation into Trump, he says, yes, of course. That's always what I've said. That was his claim. After 5 years of fighting it. Of course. Yes, we know. The Durham report said it was corrupt. Yes, the FISA warrants and everything was corrupt. Anyways, time to move on. Long time ago. When I've debated people like Pisco, he says, the FBI made changes. They made changes. They're good. It won't happen again. Promise. Super promise. They've made changes to their policy. So that sort of stuff can't happen again. Trust us. It won't. It's all good. And then we find ourselves at Artic Frost. So we're going to get the story of Artic Frost here first. Let me read the super chats we have. Remember, get the super chats in, trying to get to our goal of 357 today. AJC, $5 says, is this the I'm Speaking Now segment? Sunday, my friend. Christopher Scott, $5, thank you. And Naughty Germ, $5, thank you as always, my friend. Artic Frost. Artic Frost was the investigation started by Timothy Tybalt, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, which was of the Washington field office, started in April 2022. It was the FBI, DOJ, Office of the Inspector General, U.S. Post Service, National Archives, and Record. In November 2022, it was handed over from the FBI to Jack Smith, the special counsel. Now, does anyone remember what Artic Frost, what was Jack Smith's investigation? What were they investigating? What was the crime? Does anyone remember? Classified documents. Tax evasion. Nah. January 6th is basically right. Jack Smith, the scope of it was, I looked up exactly what the scope was. Multifaceted conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election so Trump could remain in office. Mostly they were looking at the fake electors, the alternate electors. That was mainly what it was. Trump's plan for the alternate electors. That's basically what Jack Smith was looking at. It's funny, though. Y'all remember Jack Smith, but you don't even remember there were so many bullshit cases against Trump. The tax case, the Alvin Bragg case with the paying of Stormy Daniels, the Mar-a-Lago case, the raid on Mar-a-Lago, right? Just lawfare after lawfare after lawfare after lawfare. But that's what Jack Smith was about, the alternate electors. The theory was that it was illegal that Trump proposed alternate electors, and it was him trying to steal the election. That's what the FBI started in April 2022 to investigate, and then handed it off to special counsel Jack Smith. This is called Artic Frost. Now, what we've learned about Artic Frost is they were basically spying on every influential Republican. 20% of the Republicans in the U.S. Senate were spied upon. Susie Wiles and Kash Patel were spied upon. Now we know that Kash Patel is a private citizen at the time. They basically got every fucking record of his for 2 years. Phone calls, emails, toll data. Imagine the Trump administration right now spying on 20% of the Democrats in the Senate. Based on some bullshit. Well, Biden tried to do something wrong, so now we have to spy on the Democrats in the Senate. 2 years later. Imagine. It would literally be, Trump would be impeached immediately. It'd be the biggest scandal in the history of the country, according to our media, according to the Democrats. This shit happened. Not only did they spy on all of these Republicans, senators, people like Ted Cruz, and I think Grassley, and all these other people, Mike Lee, and Kennedy from Louisiana. Not only did they spy on him, but here's the kicker. They did so in a way that the senators didn't even know that they were being targeted. And who signed off on the warrants? The same judge that's continually been a thorn in the side of Trump when it came to Garcia, the alleged MS-13 member, Kilmar Abreu Garcia, that's ruled against Trump on a litany of cases, that gave Kevin Kleinsmith, the dude that forged documents to try to get a FISA warrant against Trump's team, a slap on the wrist, Judge Boasberg. He signed off on warrants. And in these warrants against Republican senators, he said that the Republican senators could not be informed that their data was being collected because there was a risk they would destroy records. Now think about that for a second. A judge saying that we need to secretly spy on 20% of the Republicans in Senate, and if they knew their records were being subpoenaed, they were flight risks or they would destroy the records, etc. I just want you to imagine what that would look like if the shoe was on the other foot. Imagine if a Trump-appointed judge allowed the Trump FBI to spy on 20% of Democratic senators and a bunch of other Democrats and say, and it has to be in secret. They can't even know because we don't trust these Democrats. They'd be at risk to destroy the evidence. And here's the kicker. What was the crime? Why did we need to spy on 20% of the senators, Republican senators? Why? Because maybe they were involved in the alternate electors? Do you see the absurdity of this? Under that sort of mantra, if Trump's team decided we're going to investigate Biden's auto pen scandal and we're going to subpoena the records of fucking 20% of the Democrats in the Senate, and they're not allowed to know about it because who knows, maybe they had conversations with Biden about the auto pen shit. Who knows? And then maybe we'll leak to the press a bunch of shit, whatever we find. Hey, whatever, right? Remember, again, not to bring it back to Destiny again, remember what he was saying the other day with his mod? We covered the Warren Smith thing. A fishing expedition. Remember, Destiny was saying to his mod, well, technically, the Trump people aren't breaking the law, so we just have to make shit up so that we can investigate them, and then we'll see what we can find. You know, like spying on 20% of the Republicans in the Senate. You know, secretly, so they didn't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll find something. If not, oh well, no big deal. Meanwhile, if Trump's team tries to investigate this, the Democrats screech, the media screech. That's partisan. How can you do that? How can you? Now, all the evidence is out there. And I've yet to hear one fucking Democrat in office, one left-wing pundit, commentator, whatever, say, wait a minute, what the fuck? Not one. So that's where we find ourselves today. There's a hearing, about a 2-hour hearing. I've seen clips of it on X. And what we're going to do is we're going to watch the whole damn thing today, or at least the vast majority of it. And we're going to commentate on it. Now, why does this story matter? Because it shows that the very institutions that we're told to trust are corrupt in the most blatant of ways. And that the number one thing that must be done by a Trump administration is actually draining the swamp, which he's not doing a great job of. Until this is fixed, it will not be possible for radical change in an administration. They will use every mechanism possible to spy, to use lawfare. If something cannot be done about something so blatant, something so corrupt, something so antithetical to the way our country's supposed to run, then there is no hope of any meaningful change in a serious way. That's why I focus so heavily on these issues of corruption and said, for me, corruption is the most important issue. It does not matter if me and you vehemently disagree on whether or not we should attack Iran, whether or not we should have tariffs. All of that's irrelevant if the people running the show are like, nah, fuck you. Your voice doesn't matter. We'll just use corruption. What the fuck are you going to do? Nothing. So that's what we're going to cover. We're going to start into this video in a second. Couple more super chats to get to. Stagus, $5 says, DSG, ours do nothing. Men can get pregnant. Wrong is right. World is effed. Have $5. Thank you. I don't disagree. GG, thanks for the gifted sub. I really appreciate it, man. Stangus, $5 says, if Trump did X, lol, James said she'll find a crime, railroaded, and everyone's cool with it. Trump didn't have to do squat. That's exactly right. Exactly. Gorilla Biscuits. What's happening, my friend? $5 says, expand on the virtues of your Senator Lindsey Graham. He's yours, not mine. Seriously, I want to hear your stupid BS. Let's go. I don't like Lindsey Graham. Thanks for the $5. How many times have people heard me criticize Lindsey Graham on this very channel? Where the fuck do people get? I don't get it. I guess this is once more, people, if I don't say Israel's responsible for every evil thing that's ever happened in the United States and the Muslims are great and we need to welcome them in with open arms, then I must love Lindsey Graham. Lavin, what's up? We missed you at the Whip Stravaganza. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Is it even possible to drain the swamp? Maybe not. Because you're Republican, that's why, and I'm not. Okay, so what are you, Democrat? Oh, I get it. You're mass migration, pro, leave criminals out, men can be women. There you go. Everyone, ladies and gentlemen, Gorilla Biscuits, everyone. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Gorilla Biscuits, everyone. There he is. Brilliant. All right. So, joke's on him. He sent me $5. Idiot. $5 less for an illegal immigrant that he was no doubt going to give to. So we're going to start this. I have not watched the full thing. Lindsey Graham's actually more on the side of the establishment, which is the anti-Trump side, the Democrats. So actually, he's more yours than mine. So I've seen clips of this, but I haven't watched the whole thing. And oftentimes, there's a lot more going on than just the clips you see. So I figured we'll watch the whole thing. We'll pause for super chats periodically. So remember to get those in. Otherwise, let's go.
I hereby call to order this hearing, Artic Frost, the modern Watergate. 50 years ago, Watergate exposed a simple but profound...
This is my channel, says you're the establishment with your Zio Boomer takes. Thanks so much, man, for your support. Really appreciate it. All right, let's keep going.
Abuse of power. Operatives tied to a sitting president broke into a building to secretly gather information from their political opponents by bugging offices and seizing documents. And what followed was just as troubling. Efforts to use the powers of government to conceal it, to pressure investigators, to shut down inquiries, to avoid accountability. Even though that operation failed in its ultimate objective, the American people did not treat it lightly. The consequences were swift and severe. The President of the United States resigned in disgrace, facing
Thanks so much, Gorilla Biscuits. We appreciate it.
near certain impeachment. And dozens of officials, more than 40 individuals connected to the scheme, were indicted or jailed because the attempt itself was the offense. In our law, we recognize a simple truth. A failed crime is not an insignificant one. A man who pulls the trigger and misses is no less guilty than the one who hits his mark. The intent is the same, the danger is the same, and the crime is the same. And if Watergate taught us anything, it is that even a single abuse of power carried out by a handful of individuals can shake the foundations of our republic. But what we confront today, the Biden administration's Artic Frost scheme, is not a single act. It is a modern Watergate, trading a break-in at one office for a digital sweep into approximately 100,000 private communications, more than a dozen senators, and thousands of individuals' lives.
Now, I just want you to understand the scope of this. I understand the utility of referencing Watergate. I get it. Because that is something that's been, because the media were on the side of that and they didn't like Nixon. And I'm telling you, someday we'll do a deep dive into Watergate. It is not what it seems. Right? It's not what it seems. When you think of Watergate, though, the Democrats and their media apparatuses have ingrained in the American psyche, and it's just a matter of course. This was as corrupt as it gets. And I cannot stress enough, although I understand the utility of that comparison, the truth is it pales in comparison to many, many, many things that we've seen done by the establishment and the Democrats since Trump decided to come down that escalator in 2015. The impeachment of Trump, the first impeachment, because he asked Zelensky about the corrupt quid pro quo of Joe Biden, where he used $1 billion of your tax dollars to ensure a prosecutor that was looking at his son's company got fired, resulting in that company's owner, Zlochevsky, that was considered a corrupt oligarch, promptly coming back to the country. Celebrating, everything working out well. Charges dropped against him. We had Crossfire Hurricane, which we've already talked about. We have Artic Frost. Just Artic Frost alone, dozens of senators spied upon, many other private citizens spied upon, former presidents spied upon, over a nebulous, we think they tried to steal the election claim. By the way, did any of the evidence that they spied on the senators result in charging any of the senators? Nope. Nope. So keep in mind, when these comparisons occur, this is so much worse. A couple of people off the book spying, bad. using the apparatus of the FBI itself to spy on the majority of your effective political opponents. That's where we're at now in this country. And you'll hear nary a peep from our media or from the Democrats on this. Continuing.
But even that comparison falls short.
Ah!
It is something far broader. An operation that aligned Democrats across all three branches of government. The Biden executive branch, through DOJ and the FBI, wielding investigative power against political opponents. Democrat-appointed judges in the judiciary, through warrants, secrecy orders, and deference, failing to serve as a meaningful check. And members of the legislative branch, who should be the first line of oversight, choosing instead to look the other way. And just like Watergate, these...
Now, it's a great point. Biden's executive does this straight from the Biden team to the FBI, judges signing off on it, and the legislative branch of the Democrats just saying, we're cool with it. Not to mention, then you could go further, the media complicit in it. Where are our civil rights attorneys? Where are they? Where's the ACLU? Where's all these law firms that are against government overreach and corruption? Suspiciously silent. It's much different than when Ken started to Bill Clinton. So. What we see is a near universal acceptance that Trump's a bad man. The people that are on Trump's side are bad. We could do whatever we want to them. That's what we see. Accepted from the top to the very bottom. Your average Democrat friend. They ain't going to give a shit. Now, you remember when I interviewed, or this guy called in, we talked about it the other day there. This guy calls in, and we're talking about the 2020 election and different ballots, this, that, and the other, and which one should be accepted, whatever. And the guy calls in, he seems neat, like reasonable guy, and then we bring up Trump, and he all of a sudden he gets really pissed off, and we start going through, and he's basically like, let me stop here. I don't give a shit. Count every single ballot. I don't give a fuck what it's about, as long as it beats Trump. If it beats Trump, it's good. And I said, let me ask you this. If you were working the poll station and you saw that Trump was about to win the presidency unless in your state of Arizona he lost that state, would you cheat? And he was like, yeah, I would. That's the truth. The truth is, no one gives a shit. Your average Democrat, my guess would be 80 to 90, probably 90% or higher of Democrats. If you really talk to them, if you're like friends with them and you're having beers, and you're like, did you see this corruption? They'd be like, I don't give a shit. Fuck Trump. I don't care. I really don't care. My guess is 90%, if not more, would just say, I don't give a shit. They'll pretend. They'll say, I don't see a problem with it. Just like they did with COVID. I don't see a problem with the government pressuring social media to censor things. It's all for the greater good, you see. And the truth is, the reason that they are, as Gigi says, they're hand-waving it, is because they don't mind it. Whatever. Stop that fucking orange man. Stop him. And maybe you're even tempted to say, I don't like Trump. Maybe it is necessary to break the rules to stop him. Well, I'm here to tell you, whoever it is that follows Trump with MAGA, DeSantis, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, I tell you right now, they're already setting the narrative. That person is worse than Trump because they have all the negative impulses and fascism of Trump, except they're more serious and they're smarter. Mark it down. And so guess what? For the next 4 years, that'll be the excuse. Well, we have to break the rules to get that person. And then whoever follows that. And so on and so forth. So when you see that this occurred at show me one. Show me one prominent, maybe John Fetterman will speak out against this. Other than that, show me one left-wing commentator. Go ahead, pick your favorite. They spied on a dozen Republican senators. They hid that fact from the senators because a judge said that they were flight risks and would destroy evidence. What was the crime? Well, maybe they talked to Donald Trump about alternate electors. We don't know. We were just fishing to see what we could find. And they're fine with it. They're like, okay, whatever. Sounds good. And then they'll have the nerve to tell you, Trump targets his opponents after this shit. I wish Trump was 1/5 of the monster they claimed.
Officials deserve to be investigated, tried, impeached, and brought to justice. So let's examine how this operation was carried out step by step. In early 2022, senior leadership within the Biden Department of Justice made the decision to open an investigation targeting President Trump and his campaign apparatus. Attorney General Merrick Garland, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, and FBI Director Chris Wray all personally approved the opening of the investigation. On April 4th, 2022, they signed a confidential memo with each of their signatures. That fact matters because Watergate was carried out in secret by operatives who were not brazen enough to act with formal written authorization from the highest levels of the Department of Justice.
Now, you see there with the signs, they spied on Turning Point, they spied on the RNC, a bunch of other conservative organizations, 430 Republican organizations, a dozen senators, private citizens, Trump himself, people connected to the Trump campaign. I just want you to imagine the alternative occurring. For example, all of this had to do with the alternate elections being an insurrection. Based on the definition of insurrection most of the people on the left I talk to use, we've seen dozens of left-wing insurrections since Trump's been in office this second term. People fighting against ICE. It's been ubiquitous that almost everyone in the media, in the Democratic apparatus, and Democratic politicians have basically supported the people that are out there using violence and intimidation to stop ICE. So imagine if Trump's FBI was like, well, we are going to in secret subpoena all of the communications of all of these Democratic organizations and politicians. We think they're engaged in an insurrection. Let's see if they're communicating with the insurrectionist on the ground. Fair game, right? I wouldn't want to hear one Democrat bitch about it. That's the standard that's been set. But wait a minute. How could they go after insert your Democrat media group? How could they do that? How could they go after this Democrat, organization that has nothing to do with Act Blue, Planned Parenthood, what the fuck ever. All of them, right? Subpoena them. Why not? That's the standard, right? Instead, Democrats will flip the fuck out when Trump's just like, we should look at Chris Wray. We should look at Norm Eisen. We should look at Fusion GPI. How can you do that? That's targeting political opponents. Meanwhile, what do they say to this? I'll tell you what they'd say. Good. Trump tried to steal an election. They should have subpoenaed all these people.
Artic Frost was fully authorized, formalized, and executed through the official powers of the United States government by partisan Democrats. Then, in the fall, came the nearly 200 subpoenas. We're talking about information pertaining to hundreds of entities and individuals. Over 400 Republican-aligned groups and individuals, including the most sensitive categories of personal data, gathered, retained, and in some accounts shared across offices. Watergate was about a handful of files in a single office. This reached into tens of thousands of private communications, emails, records, and personal data, toll records, bank records, donor lists, law firm records, and other personal files relating to every major conservative organization were subpoenaed. Who were the targets of this? Donald Trump's campaign, the RNC, the Conservative Partnership Institute, Save America PAC, America First Policy Institute, and even My Pillow, because God knows we have a national security threat from rogue pillows threatening our country.
Mike Lindell, yeah. Again, Turning Point, Charlie Kirk's organization. I mean, the RNC itself. The RNC. How is this legitimate? Literally, if I could steelman the argument from the FBI here, the Democratic argument, well, maybe the RNC had communications that talked about alternate electors. Maybe Turning Point had communication that talked about alternate electors. Maybe America First Policy Institute had information that talked about alternate electors. See how that works? Under this justification, if there was a RICO case brought against the insurrectionists fighting ICE, how would this not legitimize literally targeting the entire Democrat apparatus and say, hey, we're just making sure that there weren't communications. That's it. We're just going to spy on all your private information, and we're not going to tell you because we think you're a risk to destroy the evidence. The same group, that to me, that sounds like fascism. That sounds like authoritarianism. That's what it sounds like to me. All the shit they bitch about Trump about. This sounds like that 10 times worse. You barely heard about it in the mainstream media. The people that know of it make excuses. No Democrats have come out and spoke against it. At some point, you have to say that the silence is them signing off on it. Yeah, that's okay. We're fine with it. Let's keep going.
Watergate broke into an office. Artic Frost reached into the private lives of thousands of Americans. Meanwhile, conservative leaders found themselves equally violated. The Biden administration sought the phone records of nearly 20% of the Republicans in the Senate, including multiple members of the committee, including myself. Without our
Flavius, incredibly generous. As soon as Cruz is done, I promise I'll read them all. Thank you so much, man. What an absolute legend. Thank you. Here's the senators that were targeted.
Knowledge, the FBI took the cell phone data of nearly 20% of the Republicans in the Senate, including information about with whom we were talking, how long we were talking, and from where we were calling. Toll records are not trivial. They are a map of your life, giving insight into your relationships, your movements, your patterns.
Now, what you'll hear is that these toll records, well, they couldn't hear what they were actually saying. It's just, who did Mike Lee call? Who did Ted Cruz call? Where was he when he called them? How long was the call? But this is the initial spot of a fishing expedition. And to the Democrats, you'll hear say it's not a big deal. Fine, fuck it then, right? Let's subpoena the toll records of every single Democrat. No problem, right? If it's no big deal. Oh, they wouldn't like that, would they? Would not like that at all. This was today.
Such invasive subpoenas were granted by Judge Boasberg, a Democrat-appointed judge, on the premise that any one of us, or to be clear, all of us, as duly elected United States senators, would destroy evidence, tamper with witnesses, or obstruct justice. And Judge Boasberg signed those orders like he was printing the menu at a Denny's.
Not so sure about that. That seems to be an odd. But the absurdity of that, we have a legal system that will leave out 37-time felons that abuse people. They'll leave them out on bail. But at the same time, when they're subpoenaing and spying on U.S. senators, they're like, nah, maybe they'll destroy evidence. I'll guarantee you there is 0% chance that Judge Boasberg's ever signing a fucking surveillance warrant subpoena of records from a Democrat, period. And if he does, there's a 0 chance he's going to say, well, maybe they'll destroy records. Ain't happening. And if it did happen with the conservative judge, the left would lose their fucking minds.
One after the other, facts be damned, every member of the Senate is likely to destroy evidence. Such invasive subpoenas are an abuse of power. Recently, even more troubling facts continue to emerge. Biden's Department of Justice subpoenaed the toll records of now FBI Director Kash Patel and now White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. They were not aiming low. They were trying to take out everyone on the other side. Both were at the time private citizens and key members of President Trump's 2024 election campaign. Now imagine the reverse. Imagine for just one moment that President Trump's Department of Justice had secretly obtained the phone records of Senator Schumer, and Senator Whitehouse, and Senator Durbin, Senator Hirono, and Senator Padilla. My Democrat colleagues would be losing their minds right now in this hearing if the Trump Department of Justice had done that. Imagine if a Republican Attorney General, a Republican FBI Director, and a Republican appointed judge had all signed off on a covert effort to sweep up the communications, locations, data, and call history of every Democrat-affiliated organization and individual in the United States. Imagine if a judge, a Republican-appointed judge, signed an order that said Senator Durbin will destroy evidence if he is aware of this subpoena, because that's what this judge did. Would anyone in this hearing room call that routine? Would Democrats call that normal law enforcement activity? Would the press shrug its shoulders? Of course not. There would be wall-to-wall coverage. There would be cries of authoritarianism. There would be emergency hearings, demands for resignations, and talk of impeachment before the sun went down. Instead, my Democrat colleagues can barely get their heart rate above 60 beats per minute. Artic Frost is the culmination of a gross pattern of abuse by Democrats for partisan ends to elect and re-elect a Democrat president. In 2016, Obama's...
So he's absolutely right, and I'm glad that he brought up sort of the double standard here, right? I am. I'm glad for that. You just know, again, I haven't watched this. I just saw the clips, and most of the clips I saw was like Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, etc., talking to witnesses. Make no mistake at all. The Democrats are just going to shrug their shoulders when they talk. They're going to say, Trump tried to steal an election. This is all legit. Nothing bad happened. They'll just repeat it. One of the things the Democrats are amazing at, they get 2 or 3 talking points. They've done this forever, my entire adult life. But if you go back and you watch Crossfire Hurricane, I.G. Horowitz is giving this damning review of the FBI and all the mistakes or corruption or whatever that occurred during that. And when he gives his testimony, the Democrats just stuck. Isn't it true that you concluded that the start of the investigation was legitimate? Yeah. Isn't it true that Russians tried to interfere? Yeah. Okay, next.
FBI began spying on the Trump campaign just a month before Election Day. In 2020, Biden's FBI met with Senators Johnson and Grassley in an effort to throw off their investigation into the now infamous Hunter Biden laptop, calling the laptop disinformation, a claim we now know was false. The FBI went to the chairman of the Senate Judiciary.
So what he's saying here is, so the last 3 elections we've had, all 3 Donald Trump running, all 3 the FBI interfered with. All 3. 2016, they're spying on Trump going into that election. We remember, Mother Jones' article came up right in the eve of the election saying there was an FBI investigation into Trump's team. All that shit broke. 2020, they were covering up. Remember, 47 former intel officials said that the Hunter Biden laptop story had the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. They're putting their thumb on that election. 2024, we can see that they're spying on all of these conservative groups, spying on Trump's team, spying on Susie Wiles, Kash Patel, Turning Point, the RNC, Ted Cruz, 11 other senators. 3 in a row. Now, I was reliably told after the scathing, literally, the Inspector General and the Durham reports both were sort of fluff pieces from my angle that basically let the FBI off the hook and the Obama administration off the hook. But even the criticisms, they were like, there's some of this shit that we can't defend. And the FBI is like, our bad, we'll take care of it. And ubiquitously, the Democrats are like, oh, they said they've taken care of it. And I said, but what happens when we find out, they did this shit again? Oh, well, remember that? I was arguing with Pisco and them about this. They said, show me your proof, Rob. Show me your proof that they didn't take care of it. They said that they took care of that. We won't see these abuses with FISA warrants anymore. We won't see this sort of spying on by the FBI. Trust me. And here we are, 2024, same shit. And I'm here to tell you, because of the fecklessness of the Republicans and Donald Trump, they're going to do it in 2028. And they're going to do it in 2032. And they're going to do it in 2036. And they're going to do it in the midterms all throughout there. They're not going to stop because there's never consequences. This is our country now. You have to win overwhelmingly to beat the margin of error of fucking illegals voting or ballot harvesting, the FBI interference, the media collaborating with them. You have to win overwhelmingly. Because the deck is stacked for the Democrats and for the establishment. Then even if you do win, they're going to spend 4 years every time you win sabotaging you using lawfare as much as possible. I share the anger with the people in the audience like none of this matters. It matters to us so we can keep documents and see just how corrupt it is. It's another matter whether or not there will be consequences for it. All of this bloviating. Oh, we're angry this time. Results. We want to see results. Now, allegedly, there's subpoenas going out in Florida for John Brennan, James Comey, etc. But until there are results, none of this will change. Why would they change? They get away with it with impunity. They got away with it in 2016. They got away with it in 2020. So why wouldn't they do this shit in 2024?
Judiciary Committee and lied to him in an effort to change the outcome of a presidential election. Democrats for years have exhibited the pattern of abusing public law enforcement powers for the sake of politics. A pattern this committee, under the leadership of Chairman Grassley, is now working to uncover and expose. Because no administration, Republican or Democrat, has any business turning the surveillance powers of the federal government against its political opposition. 50 years ago, this nation was confronted with an abuse of power. And it responded not with indifference, but with accountability. I'll tell you one of the big differences of Watergate versus Artic Frost. When Richard Nixon and his corrupt attorney general and his corrupt administration abused their law enforcement powers to go after their political opponents, Republican senators stood up to the president of their own party and defended the rule of law. Where is even a single Democrat senator who has said one word about this abuse of power? Is there not one? There are 47 Democrats in this body. Is there not one who can come forward and say, you know what? Turning the Department of Justice into the Oppo research and attack machine of the DNC is not what the DOJ is supposed to be. We were tested then, and there was accountability. We are being tested again now. The question is really simple. Will we uphold the same standard? Will we defend the rule of law? Or will we abandon it? Ranking Member Whitehouse.
All right. Not bad by Ted Cruz there. Let's read some super chats. I do not believe the dono board is broken. Gorilla Biscuits, no longer in the chat, but thanks so much for your $5. Here's another $5, Rob. You don't know what mine is. You never bothered to ask. Keep defending those positions. I feel good about it, dummy. Thanks so much for the $5. Rights are forced, $10 as epitaph on the grave of America because GOP are weak. But Democrats are the real racist tyrants, bigots. Yeah, Republicans need to do something. And then Flavius, what an absolute legend, $300. Says, I'm willing to bet this won't make it into the history books. I wonder who writes those books. Well said. Absolutely true. Why Watergate and not this? What's the difference? Because the right people. The winners are choosing. That's why. Objectively, this is worse by any metric. Thank you to everyone watching over on Rumble as well. I see you over there. We're going to proceed with the video. Now, we have Whitehouse coming up, who's the ranking Democrat. And again, I haven't seen this. I will guarantee that this is all about Trump tried to steal an election. This was all routine. If it appears that it's not routine, it's because the actions that Donald Trump took were so terrible. And this is just about once more, another attack on legitimate law enforcement, FBI. That's what this is. Just attacks. It's just Trump. It's what he does. It's what the Republicans do. Attack legitimate law enforcement. So, here we go.
Last month, Kash Patel fired roughly a dozen agents and analysts from the FBI's CI-12 unit, a counterintelligence unit dedicated to protecting Americans from foreign espionage. One of the foreign actors that this unit specializes in is Iran and its proxies. According to CNN, this unit was, and I quote, instrumental in tracking potential threats. After the first Trump.
Thank you for the super chat. I promise I'll get to him after Whitehouse here. So here we go. They spied on all these senators. How would you feel if they spied on you and lied about it? How would you feel? Trump's team fired some people. You may notice the non sequitur, the red herring here.
Trump administration killed a top Iranian official in 2020. Just days after Patel fired these agents, President Trump,
yes, this is from today,
started a war in Iran that has already led to the deaths of at least 13 American service members. If it seems like a bad decision to fire career law enforcement professionals who specialize in defending against Iranian threats just days before we start a war with Iran, that's because it is.
I mean, even for Democrats, this is exceedingly weak. This is your opening salvo. Hey, you spied on basically every Republican organization. You spied on 20% of Republican senators. Like, what do you guys have to say about that? How would you feel if it was you? It was all three branches that allowed this to occur. A judge said that we couldn't know about the subpoenas, us senators, because we destroy evidence. How would you feel, Mr. Whitehouse, Senator Whitehouse, if that was you? Trump's team fired some intel people that supposedly have information about Iran as we attacked Iran. That sounds bad. What next? And let's not forget, Trump overfed those koi fish. Don't forget about that. And by the way, what's up with his orange skin? That's bad. Didn't he tell people to drink bleach? Anyways, let's run out the clock on this hearing, shall we?
And it's even worse when you consider why Patel fired these agents. These agents had been assigned to Jack Smith's investigation into Donald Trump's illegal hoarding of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Patel claims that as part of that investigation, Jack Smith issued grand jury subpoenas for toll records for Patel and for Susie Wiles when they were private citizens. Patel also insists that the FBI recorded one of Wiles's phone calls, which her own attorney has denied.
No, that's not true. Her attorney denied, I believe, if I got this story correct, the FBI's version was the attorney gave them authorization to record it. The attorney said that's not true, I didn't. That's the attorney's denial. Unless I'm wrong, I believe that's what's going on, which is another huge story.
If you ask anyone with law enforcement experience to react to news that the FBI may have sought these toll records, the response is simple. Of course they did. Virtually every investigation involves subpoenas for toll records for any number of reasons.
Okay, fine, fair enough. I accept this. Spy on every Democrat organization. No problem. Any crime, there's an organization of people that are engaged in violence and intimidation to go against ICE. Now spy on every Democrat. I don't want to hear a fucking word from the Democrats. Every law enforcement official will say, of course, if there's an investigation, they're looking for toll records. Now, think about the implication here. All of these organizations, the RNC, Turning Point USA, 12 Republican senators, blah, 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 blah. You spied and got all these records, and White House is like, of course, if you're investigating, you get the toll records. The issue isn't that we're saying that if you're doing an investigation, you can't get toll records. It is how expansive it was. Imagine it this way. It'd be like saying, wouldn't you say over the course of an investigation, there's likely to be someone put in handcuffs? Yeah, we'd all agree. If there's an investigation into a crime, the likelihood of someone being put in handcuffs is. So, if Trump's team decides to put 400 and something Democrats in handcuffs, if I said, if you ask law enforcement, they say over the course of an investigation, it's quite common to put someone in handcuffs. Do you think the Democrats would say, of course, makes sense? Or would they say, wait, what the fuck? What's that have to do with the fact that you just handcuffed 400 something Democrats? Do you see this sort of bait and switch here? Well, if it's ever justified in any investigation to get toll records, then clearly it's no problem that we did it to 400 and something organizations and people. Clearly not, right? That's just how investigations work. Investigate all of our political opponents. That's just how it works.
Sometimes it's to construct a timeline of events. Sometimes it's to rule out wrongdoing. Sometimes it's to prepare for a witness interview. Sometimes it's to help understand the scope of a conspiracy.
Fair enough. Again, mark this down. If it turns out there's investigations into Democrat and records are subpoena, just remember, all the Democrats, maybe they were just rolling you out. That's why they were spying on your records. They just wanted to roll you out. They were just setting up a timeline. That's all it was. It was for your good, White House, that they spied on you, just to roll you out. I mean, unless you did something and then fuck off, right? That's a new one. Hey, we're going to violate your Fourth Amendment, senators, Republicans, all of our opponents, but it's just to roll you out. That's all. It's just to roll out that you didn't do anything wrong. Oh, that's nice. Okay, no problem. The shamelessness of this is fucking unbelievable.
In fact, the first Trump DOJ did the same thing Republicans have criticized Jack Smith for doing, getting the toll records of members of Congress, following the DOJ policies then in place, and getting non-disclosure orders.
Show me.
Here's what Chairman Grassley said at the time. Investigation into members of Congress and staff are nothing new. And the Justice Department has specific procedures for such sensitive investigations. Apparently, when the Trump DOJ does it, it's nothing new. When Jack Smith does it, it's a modern.
So, cursory look at this is against Schiff and Swalwell, and it was for leaks. For leaking to the press. Oops, shit. Two
Watergate.
Democrats as opposed to hundreds of organizations, and with actual leaks that we could see coming out, as opposed to, well, we think that maybe you talked about alternate electors.
With Patel, it's obvious why Jack Smith was looking at him. Patel made himself a fact witness in that investigation. He went on podcasts bragging about how he planned to post classified information online at Donald Trump's direction, and how he'd personally witnessed Donald Trump declassify records. We have known for years that Smith was looking into Patel's role because Smith subpoenaed Patel to testify before a grand jury. Where is Patel's grand jury testimony? Why is that still hidden? The same goes for Ms. Wiles. Wiles is referenced in the indictment against President Trump because Trump showed her classified documents when she didn't have a security clearance. The same month that indictment came out, the PAC Wiles ran received its highest payment ever from the Trump campaign. That's another thing that any investigator worth their salt would take.
Okay. Well, when it comes to classified information being given out, Swalwell, right? Schiff. Keep in mind, it's not just the toll records of Susie Wiles and Kash Patel. New evidences came out that they were basically going through every area of Kash Patel's life for 2 years. So I assume White House would say, no problem. Any talk of people mishandling classified documents on the Democrat side, totally go through their life with the microscope, correct?
A close look at. The same goes for the rest of the subpoenas my colleagues on the other side want to talk about today. Jack Smith was investigating a massive conspiracy by Trump officials and their allies to overturn an election and attack the Capitol on January 6th. Is anyone surprised that he issued subpoenas as part of that investigation?
No, I'm not surprised that Jack Smith was corrupt and went after all of these organizations. We're not. By the same token, the FBI is engaged, including, and now Jack Smith, in corruption to try to overturn an election. They did so in 2026. They put their thumb on the scale in 2020. They did so in 2024. So I assume we'd be fine subpoenaing every Democrat organization. Correct, White House? Of course not.
And why? As Smith told the House Judiciary Committee under oath, His investigation, quote, involved interviewing and subpoenaing records of Republicans because that's who Donald Trump sought to prey on to stay in office. Somebody.
See, they had to spy on Republicans because Trump was preying on them. You see? You see how it works? They spied on Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and Josh Hawley because Trump was preying on them. It was to help them. Don't you see? Ah, well, when that's the case, I think that the Trump administration really needs to help these Democrats. Let's start investigations on all of them, spying completely on all of them. You know, because they're being preyed upon by different organizations to help them, right? Wouldn't that be great?
Geared up the Republican Attorneys General Association, or RAGA, to sponsor the rally that turned into the riots on January 6th and pay for robocalls, urging people to march to the Capitol building and fight to protect the integrity of our elections.
Cool. So if we hear any robocalls from Democrats telling people to go fight against ICE, that justifies investigations in the entire Democrat apparatus. Correct? Right? Oh, no, that's good. That's free speech. You're allowed to do that. It's just when Republicans say you need to fight for our rights in election, then it's terrible.
Jeffrey Clark, who worked at DOJ at the time, tried to convince the Department of Justice leadership to send a letter to try to overturn the election results in Georgia.
He did what Democrats were planning on doing, which was alternate electors, which, remember, the Transition Integrity Project, led by Podesta, a bunch of other head Democrats, said that this is exactly, war gamed out, this is exactly what Democrats were going to do if they lost. It is a legal challenge. And then to act like, well, because of this legal challenge, we get to spy on the entirety of the Republican apparatus is absurd.
President Trump almost made him acting attorney general because Clark was willing to help Trump try to overturn the election. Pretend for a minute that Jack Smith and all the DOJ and FBI officials who helped his investigation did do something wrong. What would real oversight look like? Well, first, Republicans would accept Jack Smith's offer to testify before this committee under oath, instead of holding a series of hearings on conspiracy theories without anything new to say.
Conspiracy theories? So far, all I heard was, here's all the people they spied on.
Why not call him? Hear it from the man himself. Second, Republicans would let us see Jack Smith's full report on his investigations into President Trump. We only have Volume 1, which explains the subpoenas he issued in the 2020 election interference investigation. We still need Volume 2 on his classified documents crimes investigation.
Yeah, we spied on our entire opposition, and it's a damn shame that we don't have all of the shit we found. We as Democrats, we use Jack Smith and the FBI to spy on the entire Republican Party. We want those documents, damn it. We want the fruits of that. It's only right. That's the argument here.
Investigation. Democrats on this committee have asked DOJ to give us Volume 2, but Republicans have been silent as President Trump and his MAGA DOJ have fought to bury the report. Third, Republicans would oblige Kash Patel to tell us what he told the grand jury in that classified documents investigation. They might also hold Patel accountable for misleading this committee in sworn testimony. I've asked Patel multiple times under oath to describe his testimony to us, as Rule 6E plainly allows. First, he said he couldn't because it was under seal by the chief judge for the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia.
Now, again, all of this is, we want to talk about January 6th more. We want more details, more. Notice this is a big red herring from the only thing he said about like the massive spying that's occurred. that Ted Cruz has talked about in his opening statement here is, what was to protect them? Because Trump was preying upon them. Now, what about Patel? What exactly did Patel say to a grand jury? Who gives a fuck? Have a hearing on it when you guys get in charge. How about this mass spying? How about that? It was for your own good. Anyways, back to January 6th and Patel.
Turns out that very chief judge later said that nothing was preventing Patel from divulging his testimony to this committee as the rule allows. So that testimony was false. When Patel came back, he told another lie, this time that he had already released the transcript of his testimony. Here's the transcript he might have been talking about. As you can see from reading it, oh, wait a minute, you can't read it because it's almost completely redacted. And it's not even from the right hearing. This is from the time Patel appeared before the grand jury in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents crimes case to assert his Fifth Amendment rights because he was afraid of being prosecuted. The testimony that he actually ended up giving once his Fifth Amendment plea was accepted and he was immunized, we have never seen. If this committee is so interested in Jack Smith's investigation, it should want to know what Patel had to say in that investigation, why he was so afraid.
I mean, I just want you to think, Trump tomorrow orders his FBI to spy on every Democrat organization, right? Because they're connected to anti-ICE riots, right? They do it under secret. They get a bunch of information. They start going after people. Democrats find out years later, holy shit, Trump's team did this. And the Republican answer to it is, we did it for your own good because we think that left-wingers were preying upon you. And who gives a fuck about all that? We want to see the testimony that was the result of our fish hunting expedition. That's what we want to see. Fuck all this. Do you think the media would go along with that? You think the Democrats would go along with it? Yeah, forget about the mass spying of Democrats. Forget about that. We're interested in what were the interviews in front of the grand jury. That's what we're interested in.
Say it, and why he's so afraid to tell us about it now, and instead repeatedly lies to this committee. I'll close by talking about what this hearing should be about. Those counterintelligence agents Kash Patel fired aren't the only career law enforcement officials forced out by this administration.
And this is the rub. We have a corrupt FBI that illegally spied on Trump in 2016 and went after him, that put their thumb on the scale in 2020, that did the same shit in 2024. How dare any of them be fired? We demand that they continue to be there. We demand it. We are entitled to corrupt FBI agents that do the bidding of the Democratic Party. How dare Trump do anything and try to fire any of them? That's outrageous. That's what it should be about. Why would you fire the very people that were weaponizing the government against you? How dare you? Meanwhile, when Democrats take over, you think there's a fucking chance, if like Doge is still going, that Democrats are going to be like, oh yes, these people must stay. All these people that Trump and Elon appointed. Oh, the people that Kash Patel appointed stuff. Yep, they must stay. Oh, they spied on all these Democrats. That's okay. They must stay.
Nor are they the only ones purged because they were assigned to investigate President Trump's crimes. Here's what has happened at the FBI since President Trump took office. The FBI has lost at least 300 agents working on national security matters, transferred agents out of the domestic terrorism operations section, disbanded the Foreign Influence Task Force, and instructed joint terrorism task forces to work on immigration cases.
No shit.
At DOJ.
Wait a minute. You mean they didn't like all work on white supremacy cases in January 6th and going after Trump? And really? He stopped the FBI from doing that and like did shit like immigration cases and shit because your side let 10 million illegals in? And now you bitch that we don't have enough people to process them? No shit.
More than 6,000 employees have left. The National Security Division has lost up to 1/3 of its leadership.
It's not enough. FBI should have been disbanded. We needed to lose 90%. None of them should ever work in government again, and there should be criminal investigations to the people at the top.
Half the line prosecutors in the counterterrorism section and half the workforce in the counterintelligence section. Attorney General Bondi disbanded DOJ's Task Force Capture, Kleptocracy Team, and Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative. It is the same story throughout the administration where conspiracy theories and obsessions with revenge are decimating the career.
So just to be clear, we get to spy on you over and over and over again. When you protest, we go, this is a conspiracy theory. This is outrageous. This is an outrageous conspiracy. How dare you want to hold us accountable? We get to weaponize against you, investigate you, do whatever you want, but you don't get to investigate that investigation. That's revenge.
Law enforcement who protect us against national security threats. Major cuts at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Laura Loomer forcing out the heads of the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command. DHS gutting its Office to Prevent Domestic Terrorism and putting a 22-year-old with no experience in charge. And cutting the workforce of FISA, which protects us from cyber security threats from bad actors like Iran. Americans are made less safe every time this committee holds a hearing promoting fake outrage about Jack Smith and denigrating FBI and DOJ professionals. Every time MAGA influencers like Laura Loomer convince the president to fire agency heads. And every time Kash Patel fires FBI experts because he wants to distract from his own incompetence, his wasting of taxpayer dollars to fly around the world on a private jet, his partying at the Olympics, or his undermining of the FBI's own.
How dare he fire anyone? And he was at the Olympics partying. Fuck him. Meanwhile, $30 million spent on Jack Smith, who wasn't even appointed properly, to spy on the entirety of the Republican organizations. 20% of Republican senators. No problem with that money spent, huh?
Investigation. Instead of chasing conspiracy theories down rabbit holes, that's what we should be focused on.
Chairman Grassley.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator Cruz, for your strong leadership, but more importantly, for the outstanding.
All right, super chats. Mr. B, $20 says, remember Debbie Wasserman Schultz? They commit Watergate 2.0 over and over and over and fucking over again, and nothing ever happens. So sick of it. Yep. Totally true. GG, $2. Thank you. Says the bar for investigation is very low. No one's above the law, right? Yes, that's what we've been told. Stonkus, $5 says, I expect Dems play a version of rock, scissors, paper, but it's January 6th, Russia, 34 felonies. Winner gets to block lawful action. Mangozi over on Rumble. Thanks so much, man. $10 says, I can think of 13 service members Democrats went silent about. No shit. Abby Gate. Didn't give a shit about that, did they? Oh, we reached our goal here tonight. I think we get to 200%, but let's give it an old goal. Thank you so much. Flavius leading the charge, man. What a legend. $300. Damn. Keep getting those super chats in. We're going to proceed.
Statement you gave this morning that reminds us a lot of history as well as what's going on right now. Today is the second in a series of Artic Frost hearings that I've authorized as chairman. I started my investigation into Artic Frost in July of 2022 based on credible whistleblower disclosures. Senator Johnson has since joined the investigation, and I appreciate our joint work. Our goal is to publicly release as many records as possible. The public has a right to know how the taxpayer dollars have been used and who was involved up and down the decision-making chain. Today, we're making new records public. Some records are dated January 2023 before Jack Smith's team secretly sought most member tolling data. The records include a wish list created by Smith's team naming 14 members of Congress for whom they wanted to seek tolling data. Some of those members are senators on this very committee. But the list notes that Smith's team already knew these members had communication, so include text messages for some members with individuals associated with President Trump. And Jack Smith was certainly aware of this effort. To quote from the emails we're making public today, quote, "Before we tell Maine, meaning Maine Justice, we're going to fire off subpoenas for so many members' tolls. I should make sure that Jack's aware." Another record states that, quote, "Unlikely the many of these members will cooperate with, unlikely many of these members will cooperate with our investigation." The same record also says the members, quote, "likely have a valid speech or debate privilege, immunizing them from compelled testimony."
In other words, there are rules that say that there's like speech and debate clause that you can't compel them to testify, right? There are all sorts of rules that are on the book, as they'll get to later, that said that you can't like order these subpoenas in secret. Didn't matter. FBI signed off on it. Jack Smith signed off on it. Judge Boasberg signed off on it. Hal, the judge before Boasberg, signed off on it. Yeah, now Grassley's old. I think Grassley does good work, but he is not a very compelling speaker, largely because of his age. And to be honest, everyone of his age should not be in Congress. But he ain't Mitch McConnell or Dianne Feinstein, or the people like that. But yeah, I share your, it's good. He does a lot of good work on these committees, but he's not a good messenger. Regardless of what you think of Ted Cruz, Ted's more articulate and, right, explained it in a way that you could understand better. Grassley, it's hard to follow, but...
End of quote. I've already publicly released other records showing Smith's team was warned that subpoenaing congressional information could violate the speech and debate clause. I've also publicly released 197 subpoenas seeking sensitive financial information from over 400 Republican groups and individuals. Some of the information sought included legislative branch communications. Even with these constitutional concerns, Smith's team secretly sought and obtained member of Congress tolling data. And when one phone company pushed back, Smith backed down. That calls into question the necessity of obtaining member data. Another record calls into question Jack Smith's assertion that the House January 6th committee materials, quote, comprised a small part of the office's investigative record, end of quote.
In other words, one phone company was like, nah, we're not going to comply with that subpoena. And Jack Smith was like, okay. Now, if it was so important to get these records of these senators, why would he just give up? Secondly, he says that most of what they got, January 6th and alternate electors things, were only a small portion. Trying to translate.
This new record states that on of the January 6th report, quote, leadership teams fully read and reviewed. Last weekend, we went over it page by page and incorporated it into our investigative plan, end of quote. Indeed, these same records that we're making public today says that Smith's team will be, quote, logging all information contained in the report, end of quote. Also, the record states Smith's team will, quote, leverage, end of quote, the report to, quote, avoid needless interviews and focus the interviews we perform on underdeveloped topics, end of quote. Overall, the records create additional questions about Smith's conduct, need for member data, and candor to the court and the public. The Democrats have criticized us for not bringing Jack Smith before us at the beginning, and you've heard that again today. If we followed the Democrats' premature and ill-advised strategy, we wouldn't have had a great deal of information we now have that shows Jack Smith misled Congress.
Right. So the argument is, why bring Jack Smith in now? Let's get the evidence first and see what Jack Smith was up to. Then we'll bring him in. They're like, no, just bring him in now. Bring him in now before we have any of the details.
And the public, if not outright lied. And lastly, today, we're also making public 2 subpoenas for toll records of FBI Director Patel, along with non-disclosure orders that kept them secret. This committee's work will continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ranking Member Durbin.
All right. Super chats. Stangas. Oh, we read this one. Baxter Boy, thank you for the $5. Really appreciate it. Also, for the Rumble people, I figured out. Here, let me show you something. I figured something out. Brief pause here. To the shaky cam. Look at this. I figured out how to take the chat, the Rumble chat. Look at that. And just put it beside. So now I can see it. Bam. So even though I still can't click it and bring it up on stage, at least I can see it now. So thank you so much, Rumble folks. All right, Durbin. You ready for more January 6th? Ready?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, America lost a man who devoted his life in service to our nation. Robert Mueller earned a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart.
Mueller, who was corrupt while he was at the FBI, fought to keep people jailed in the Whitey Bulger thing, even though he knew they were innocent. Led a witch hunt, a corrupt witch hunt against Trump. Granted, he was just the figurehead. He was a doddering old man, a la Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden. We get it. Durbin's going to say, Trump said he was happy he was dead. Oh, my goodness, this is terrible. Blah, 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 blah. Complete red herring again.
Serving as a Marine and risking his life in Vietnam. He led the FBI after 9/11, helping to secure our nation after the worst terrorist attack in American history. Mueller was an amazing man. A registered Republican, he was appointed and reappointed by not only Republican President George H.W. Bush, but Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. He holds an historic distinction. He is the only FBI director, other than J. Edgar Hoover, who had his tenure at the FBI extended beyond the 10-year limit by a vote of 100-0 in the United States Senate. He was given approval to serve an additional 2 years under President Obama. I worked with Robert Mueller for many years. I remember reaching out to him after 9/11 and the news that the technology available at the FBI was so ancient on the day of the attack
Just ask
on 9/11.
yourself, what the fuck does this have to do with anything that we're talking about?
And effective technology at a Radio Shack. I said to him, I am not an expert in this area in any way whatsoever, but I want to help you if I can. I want it to be a bipartisan effort, and we worked together for years. I never, ever questioned Bob Mueller's devotion to our nation or his personal integrity. How did President Donald Trump respond to news of Robert Mueller's passing,
Oh,
I quote the president, "Good. I'm glad he's dead."
oh my God! Holy shit!
Let me repeat
Wait,
that.
Trump said that? Well, I'm glad that they spied on 12 Republican senators then and all of these conservative. Yep, it all makes sense now. Hey, wrap up this hearing, right?
The president said, when notified of Robert Mueller's passing, "Good. I'm glad he's dead." Those reprehensible words should be condemned by every member of the committee on both sides of the aisle.
Spying on your colleagues.
Unfortunately, under
Spying on
Republican
your
leadership,
colleagues. Are you going to
this
condemn it?
committee has been complicit in the attacks on Robert Mueller, spending years spreading debunked conspiracy theories about his investigation
that's what Mueller
into
did,
Russia's
spread debunked
interference in the
conspiracy
2016 election. We're here today to attack another special counsel investigation led by another honorable public servant. As the title of this hearing makes clear, the majority is wasting this committee's time and resources on another baseless, partisan witch hunt.
Just to be clear, if Kash Patel uses his FBI to spy on Durbin and the rest of the Democrats, will they say, he's a patriot? We would never question. Is that what they would do? Like they do with Mueller? This man's service to the country. Do you think? I think you know the answer.
President Trump spent months attempting to unlawfully overturn his 2020 presidential election loss. It was known as the big lie. We heard it over and over
Oh,
again.
the big lie, yeah.
It culminated in a deadly attack on the Capitol, which many of us lived through on January 6th.
What about the deadly lies, the lies that led to the deadly attacks against ICE now? Or the deadly Black Lives Matter? Oh, you don't have shit all to say about that? Back to January 6th.
Then President Trump
We're
removed
speeding this up. We'll be
hundreds
here
of
all night.
pages of classified
Fucking
documents from
old-timers.
the White House, and as a private citizen, held them at his Mar-a-Lago residence, some next to a toilet, refusing for more than a year to return these documents. Despite this unprecedented and egregious conduct, my Republican colleagues claim the Watergate level scandal is the actual investigation into Trump's brazen transgressions, not his historically dangerous action. It would have been a dereliction of duty for any prosecutor investigating the effort to overturn the 2020 election, not to subpoena organizations like Turning Point USA.
There you have it. It'd be a dereliction of duty. Fair enough. Fair enough. When will Republicans just say, okay, you're right? And the bar for starting an investigation is very low. No one's above the law. So we're going to subpoena all Democrats. It'd be a dereliction of duty not to. For example, Tim Walz in Minneapolis, we see this fraud. We see the fraud in Somalia. Better in California, better subpoena all Democrat organizations, right? Better. Got to investigate them all for their good. They're being preyed upon. It'd be a dereliction of duty not to do it, right? These people, you know goddamn well what they would do.
An organization that helped plan the so-called Stop the Steal rally that led to the January 6th deadly attack on the United States Capitol. Similarly, any prosecutor worth his salt would have subpoenaed Kash Patel, who was a material witness in the classified documents case. Patel even infamously claimed to be the sole witness of President Trump's supposed blanket declassification of classified documents. Now, if my Republican colleagues were serious about this issue, they would have called Special Counsel Jack Smith to testify under oath before this committee.
See how now I missed that one. I missed that they're going to see how watch carefully how they stick to the same talking points. January 6th, classified documents, should have brought Jack Smith. They'll repeat that. Every one of them will just repeat it. They're very good. You can tell that they get these talking points that go out to them. Here's the 3 points to hit. Every one of these hearings, that's what they do. Irrelevant to what's being talked about here, but they'll hit those points every time. If they repeat it enough, they know that the media will just repeat their talking points or ignore it totally, and they could be like, okay, now we can move on from this. And the Republicans, as always, will be unable to capitalize.
The Democrats on this committee notified the chairman in October of last year, 6 months ago, that Smith was not only available to testify, he would do so under oath and answer the questions raised in this hearing. What has happened in the last 6 months? No action by the Republican leadership of this committee to bring the sole major witness of this event before the committee under oath to ask specific questions. Why? Why is this committee afraid to bring Jack Smith before it under oath? For 6 months, they've avoided it. You want to know why? They can continue these sham hearings over issues that don't exist. The majority has also refused to support committee Democrats' request to release Volume 2 of Special Counsel Smith's report, which Senator Whitehouse noted.
Yep.
Let me draw attention to the issues the committee should be addressing instead of this farce today. Over the past year, President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, and Director of the FBI, Patel,
Fired a
have
bunch of
systematically dismantled the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the premier law enforcement agency in the United States, if not the world. These purges are making every American less safe. Most recently, Patel reportedly fired at least 6 agents and several other FBI personnel who'd been assigned to work related to President Trump's mishandling of classified documents. These terminations were seemingly to save face with President Trump in response to the negative press Director Patel received for his embarrassing appearance chugging beer at the Olympic Games.
Beer at the Olympics.
Several of the fired agents were reportedly part of a global counterintelligence squad, which Senator Whitehouse has referred to, particularly appropriate at a time we are at war with the.
You may think it's bad that 20% of Republicans were spied upon in the Senate were spied upon and all these Republican organizations. But if you considered Kash Patel had a beer at the Olympics, you didn't think of that, did you?
In other words, Director Patel's political retribution has weakened the FBI's ability to counter Iranian threats at the exact time that not only America, but certainly the men and women in uniform
the talking
needed
points?
them to keep themselves
They'll
safe.
all hit the same
Watergate
ones.
is a story of a president who engaged in a vast illegal conspiracy to remain in power and use his control of the levers of government to obstruct investigations into his own misconduct. Back then, the Senate stood up for the Constitution and the rule of law, exposing Nixon's corruption by investigating the serious allegations against him. Today, Senate Republicans waffle between indifference to outright celebration of President Trump's brazen misconduct, despite the real dangers it poses. We cannot continue on this course. The American people face real challenges from citizens being summarily executed for exercising their First Amendment rights, into the skyrocketing price of the cost of.
No Americans were executed for their First Amendment rights. One was driving their car into officers as they were obstructing ICE, engaged in an insurrection based on your definition and language. The other, tragically killed as he was also using violence to attack ICE previously, at least a week previous, was intentionally obstructing ICE and something that got out of hand. But notice how they just reframe it. They just repeat the same fucking talk. Oh, they were executed for issuing the First Amendment. Ashley Babbitt was executed for issuing her First Amendment right, correct? Oh, no, that's different. That was way different.
Living under this administration. This hearing will not help a single person other than Donald Trump, and the Republican majority should do better for their constituents. A senator from Texas should know a dead horse when he sees one. This hearing is an attempt to throttle a dead horse to a gallop. There aren't enough giddy-ups in the world to accomplish that goal. I yield.
For a Chicago man, that was an awful lot of rodeo references.
Chairman, I don't quite know how to do this, but I would like to ask that this transcript be made an exhibit in this proceeding. It's 22 pages of examination of the witness in which only these words are public. So upon the advice of counsel, I'll be invoking my Fifth Amendment privilege. The whole rest of it is redacted. I assume that it can go in as an exhibit with the image of all the redactions.
Also, I'd like to enter into the record. Kash Patel, it was Michelob Ultra that he drank. Can we enter that into the record on this hearing about the mass surveillance and spying on a Republican? We remember Kash Patel drank beer. We would like the price of that beer. Can we enter? Can we get some of that? Can we hold the hearing until we find out how much was that beer? How much was that? Can we find? Let's put this on hold. We'd like to enter that into the record.
If that's the case, I'd like to ask that it be made an exhibit in this proceeding.
Without objection, it will be admitted. Also, on behalf of Chairman Grassley and Senator Johnson, Chairman of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, I enter into the record 30 newly uncovered and significant investigatory documents regarding Arctic Frost that shed light on the decision-making of the Biden Department of Justice. This includes 197 subpoenas targeting over 400 Republican individuals and entities that former Special Counsel Jack Smith and his team issued as a part of the indiscriminate election case against President Trump. These are not routine materials. These are internal investigative records that shed light on how and why the Biden Department of Justice authorized and carried out this operation. They detail the scope of the subpoenas issued, the categories of the 400 individuals and organizations targeted, and the decision-making process inside the department at the highest levels. In short, they allow us to see, clearly and for the first time, how this investigation was conducted from the inside. This new information would not have been known but for congressional oversight. I will now introduce the witnesses at this hearing. First witness is Mr. Will Chamberlain, who currently serves as senior counsel at the Article 3 Project. Mr. Chamberlain graduated from University
Holy shit, Wilt Chamberlain? Wilt the Still? Get out of town. 100 points, one game. Slept with thousands of women. Wilt Chamberlain, ladies and gentlemen. No shit.
Pacific in 2010 with a BA in economics. He received his JD magna cum laude from Georgetown University Law Center in 2015.
Oh, Will.
After graduating Georgetown, he joined Quinn Emanuel, Urquhart, and Sullivan in Los Angeles as an associate, where he practiced complex commercial litigation. Mr. Chamberlain later worked as an attorney at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, focusing on class action litigation. In 2019, he revived Human Events, the nation's oldest conservative magazine, where he served as publisher and editor-in-chief. Mr. Chamberlain is also vice president of external affairs at the Edmund Burke Foundation, which organizes national conservatism conferences around the world. Christopher O'Leary retired from the Federal Bureau of Investigation as a member of the Senior Executive Service in September 2023 after 2 decades of leading counterterrorism investigation and operations. Mr. O'Leary's last assignment was serving as the U.S. government's Director of Hostage Recovery, where he led an interagency task force dedicated to the mission of safely bringing home Americans taken hostage by terrorist organizations. Mr. O'Leary is also a former United States Marine Corps gunnery sergeant and Iraq War combat veteran. Thank you for that, sir. Mr. O'Leary holds a bachelor's degree in Middle Eastern Studies from Rutgers University, a master's degree from Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business, and a master's degree in Government and National Security from Harvard University. Our third witness is Margot Cleveland, an attorney, legal analyst, and investigative journalist and former academic. After graduating from the Notre Dame Law School, where she earned the Hoynes Prize, the law school's highest honor, Ms. Cleveland served for nearly 25 years as a permanent law clerk for a federal appellate judge on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Ms. Cleveland is a former full-time university faculty member at the University of Notre Dame, where in 1998 she received the Frank O'Malley Undergraduate Teaching Award, the highest award for undergraduate faculty members. Ms. Cleveland currently serves as the Federalist Senior Legal Correspondent, where she helped lead the Federalist reporting on the Russia collusion hoax, which won the Dow Grand Prize for Investigative Journalism in 2025. Ms. Cleveland is also counsel for the New Civil Liberties Alliance, where she practices constitutional law and has co-authored several Supreme Court amicus briefs and a petition for certiorari. And Mr. Chamberlain, we'll start with you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Whitehouse, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity.
And actually, hold on a second. Before we do that, I need to ask each of you to stand and raise your right hand.
I'll slow it down to
Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to
1.25
give
for
before
the
this subcommittee is
witnesses.
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All of you have answered affirmatively. Please be seated. And now, Mr. Chamberlain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Whitehouse, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. On February 26, 2025, Reuters broke a remarkable story. They reported first that in 2022 and 2023, Jack Smith and the Biden Justice Department subpoenaed toll records of calls from Kash Patel and Susie Wiles as part of the now infamous Arctic Frost investigation. Both were private citizens at this time, and the surveillance continued.
I just want to say, I just want to bring this up. This is why people don't take you name them seriously. Fuck you. Fuck you. Unprecedented evidence of the mass surveillance of one party based on Biden's FBI, right? The story coming out, and all you have to say is, these witnesses are probably Zionists. They're probably Zionists, the witnesses. That's why no one takes your ass seriously. This is why I get called a Zionist. If you don't see Jews under every fucking corner, you're a Zionist. You're Zionist. In fact, what am I even doing covering this? Shouldn't the channel... I'm sorry. I fucked up. I forgot what the channel's supposed to be. You're right, whoever you are that's worried about this. This is the only issue that ever matters, and my entire show should be in perpetuity, me talking about Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. So if what you could do is replay this 1 minute over and over again, you can see me say Trump's really bad for how he's handling the Epstein thing, and we should criticize him with every waking breath that we ever have. Don't worry about feeding your family. Don't worry about supporting them. Don't worry about taking care of yourself whatsoever. All that matters is Trump Epstein. So will you join me in saying Trump Epstein? Trump Epstein, Trump Epstein, Trump Epstein, Trump Epstein, Trump Epstein, Trump Epstein. There you go. That's 55 seconds. The minute will be complete here soon. Please put that in replay for the rest of the show. Thank you. There we go. Israel, 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 Jewish people, Jewish people, Jewish people, Jewish people. There we good, Nikki? How does, I don't know, Nikki. How's that? I'll tell you what, Nikki, what I'm going to do is ignore you because I think you're an irrelevant piece of shit. That's what I think. I think you fucking suck. That's what I think. I think the people that are so singularly focused when you see these mass amounts of corruption, it's like, but what about Israel? What about them? This must all be an Israeli plan. Now tell me, was it Israel that instructed the Democrats to spy on the Republicans and Israel that instructed the Republicans to address the spying? Can you explain how that goes, Nikki? I'm not ignoring you. You don't even understand that stupidity. Congratulations, Nick Fuentes gets 50,000 live viewers. Excellent. Then go over to his show and fuck off, right? You're so fucking stupid, you literally think when someone's addressing you, they're ignoring you. Of course. So just to be clear, Israel told the Democrats to spy on Trump. Israel told Trump to be upset about it. Is there anything in this that Israel's not connected to? All right. We'll see you, Nikki. Continuing.
While Wiles was co-managing President Trump's election campaign. This was troubling, but sadly it wasn't shocking. This committee has been investigating Smith's abuse of his subpoena power against a slew of Republican senators alongside Judge James Boasberg's unlawful non-disclosure orders that hid the existence of those subpoenas from those senators. But Reuters, if anything, buried the lead. The article also revealed that in 2023, the Biden FBI had surreptitiously recorded a phone call between Susie Wiles and her attorney. This was a remarkable breach of attorney-client privilege.
Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. White House said the opposite. White House said her attorney said this never occurred. But what happened was they were recording a private citizen's conversation with her attorney, which is protected by attorney-client privileges. So once this was outed, they were like, oh, no, the attorney gave us permission. To which the attorney said, no, I didn't. And White House misrepresents that as the attorney said that this story is all bullshit. No, they said the opposite.
Reuters article, relying on 2 FBI sources, claimed that Wiles' attorney had been aware of the surveillance in the phone call, which, if it were true, would have been a shocking ethical breach by Wiles' lawyer. The following day, however, Wiles' lawyer denied having ever consented to any such recording, stating correctly that, quote, if he ever pulled a stunt like that, he wouldn't and shouldn't have a license to practice law, end quote. His denial is, in my view, credible. What lawyer in their right mind would secretly consent to law enforcement recording a privileged phone call with their client?
Right. Why would that even make sense? Why would you do that? Imagine you have an attorney and the government calls and is like, hey, we'd like to record your phone call with your client. Okay. Why would you do that? You've all but assured that no one will ever hire you again because you're willing to sell them out. It would be career ending to do something like that. And yet the Democrats take that lawyer denying it and misrepresent it. You heard White House do it, say, a lawyer said that it was all bullshit, that the story's all bullshit. No, the lawyer said that the excuse given for recording and violating attorney-client privilege was bullshit, that the FBI's excuse was bullshit.
But the lawyer's denial raises more questions than it answers. Why then did 2 FBI sources tell Reuters that the lawyer had consented? Were the sources lying, or were they relying on false records created by FBI agents working with Smith? It wouldn't be the first time FBI personnel have falsified records in their pursuit of President Trump. Remember that Kevin Klein-Smith, a former FBI lawyer, pled guilty to intentionally falsifying information to obtain a FISA warrant in the Russiagate investigation. The scandal isn't merely that this phone call was recorded, it's also about how the records of the recording were hidden. The FBI's primary digital case management system is called Sentinel. Within it, investigators can apply a special designation to a file called prohibited access.
Now, this is a big story as well. They hid where this evidence was being seen. I forget what the term they used, but they basically made up a new term. So there's like prohibited access, but then they had like a new term that they used. And what happens is, if you're run-of-the-mill FBI agent or anyone doing oversight, you have millions upon millions of documents that the FBI has in their database. So you want to search something. But unless you have specific authorization that you knew about these specific documents, any search will show up that they don't exist on the FBI's database. So they were intentionally hidden. They're spying on people connected to Trump, lying about it, saying, oh, no, we actually had the attorney's authorization to do this, which is most likely a lie. And then they hide it. So they expect no one will ever be able to find it.
It's coded this way becomes completely invisible in standard Sentinel searches. If an agent runs a keyword search that should hit these documents, the system returns a false negative. It reports no responsive documents, even though they exist. While this prohibited access designation might make theoretical sense for files dealing with the most sensitive classified matters, it clearly does not make sense that records of Susie Wiles' phone call being surveilled would qualify. The agents who marked those records prohibited would have known that. If Wiles' lawyer had been aware of the recording, it would have constituted consensual monitoring. Monitoring such a call would likely require DOJ approval, but it could be lawful. But if Wiles' lawyer did not consent to the recording, we are likely looking at an illegal wiretap of a phone call between a presidential campaign manager and her own lawyer.
Get that? An illegal wiretap of Trump's campaign manager. None of the Democrats give a shit. None.
Where the agent or agents who conducted the wiretap lied about Wiles' lawyer's lack of consent and then coded it as a prohibited file in the hopes that no one would ever find out about it. This would be a more brazen FBI intervention into domestic politics than anything during the Russiagate investigation, which is certainly saying something. We often hear liberal law professors complain about the Trump administration undermining the DOJ and FBI's independence. Sophisticated listeners should immediately translate independent as unaccountable. Illegal wiretaps and inappropriate prohibited file classifications are the fruits of an independent FBI that acted with impunity because it was not subject to the democratic accountability that our Constitution demands. The president is tasked with the responsibility to take care that our laws be faithfully executed, not to submit to the FBI and DOJ, transforming themselves into an unaccountable fourth branch of government. And this body can help by providing essential oversight and scrutiny. I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Mr. O'Leary, you're recognized.
Now, I think O'Leary's going to be the Democrat witness. All right? I think.
Chairman, ranking member, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. In his farewell address to the nation, President George Washington warned that the health and survival of a republic required leaders who exercise virtue and resist the pull of partisan division. It is in that spirit that I offer my testimony today. I come before you not as an advocate for any political party or position, but as a nonpartisan former special agent of the FBI where I served for over 2 decades. My intent is to provide the committee with a clear, experience-based understanding of how the FBI operates, its investigative standards, institutional culture, and the professional norms that guide its work. The men and women of the FBI have long stood as a quiet bastion between order and chaos, guided not by politics or public acclaim, but by an enduring commitment to the Constitution and the rule of law.
Must have missed the last 8 years, right? Remember the illegal FISA warrants? Remember that? Remember 17 gross dangers that the Inspector General found in the Russiagate investigation? 200-something Woods procedures? The Durham report saying that it's not even about changing specific laws, it's that the culture was so bad. He must have missed all that.
Their character is forged in an environment where integrity is not aspirational, it is required. Every day, often without recognition, they make decisions that demand moral clarity, professional restraint, and personal courage. These are not abstract virtues within the FBI. They are lived expectations, reinforced through training, supervision, and deeply rooted in institutional culture. The FBI's investigative process is grounded in predication, facts, intelligence, and evidence, not ideology or affiliation. Agents are trained to clearly articulate and document the factual basis for opening and continuing investigations. And those decisions are subject to multiple layers of supervisory and legal review. Equally important is the internal culture of the FBI. The bureau I served had no tolerance for political ideology or personal bias influencing investigative work. This was not simply a matter of formal policy. It was an expectation reinforced through leadership, peer accountability, and institutional norms. The credibility of the FBI, both in court and in the eyes of the public, depends on that neutrality. And FBI professionals understand that their work must withstand scrutiny, not only in the moment, but years later.
Yeah, all of this is true. Again, the irony of this shit is like, yeah, you're right. Yes, the FBI must not even have the appearance of impropriety, blah, blah, blah. All the more reason to call out this shit. And yet the FBI, it's just like the media. The media behaves as not holding truth to power, but bearing the truth for the powerful. And then they say, but you can't criticize us because the media is very important. Sure, it's supposed to be important if they're doing their actual job, but they're not. And then they say, but to criticize it, they do this all the time. They infect these institutions with partisanship. Dr. Fauci, you can't criticize me or it's criticizing science. It's important that we trust these institutions. You're right, it is important that we trust them, which makes your corruption of it all the worse. So this guy like, oh, trust me, man, the FBI's on the up and up, and we can't scrutinize them. Quite the opposite. They should be open for scrutiny. And to the point where we can see these actual abuses that occur over and over, it demands accountability. Because you're right, the standards should be higher, but they're not, because it's a corrupt organization.
Later, allegation that the FBI has engaged in broad coordinated conspiracies to investigate individuals based on political affiliation or ideology are inconsistent with my experience and unsupported by evidence or reason. Yet the
Bullshit. Bullshit. How many messages do we need from FBI agents near the top, like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, saying that there was insurance policies to stop Trump, all of James Comey, all the comments we could see about him, Kevin Kleinsmith, illegal FISA warrants? Bullshit.
absence of credibility to these claims has not deterred Director Kash Patel from pursuing what can only be understood as a campaign of retribution against his own personnel.
Now, isn't that funny? Now he has no problem criticizing the head of the FBI now. Isn't that interesting? Criticize Bob Mueller, criticize James Comey, criticize Rod Rosenstein or Chris Wray. Oh, these are noble people. How dare you? Because Patel's a piece of shit.
When agents and analysts are removed not for misconduct, but for their lawful participation in duly authorized investigations, The conclusion that such actions are politically driven is self-evident. This form of retaliation against the dedicated professionals of the FBI has eroded trust in leadership, damaged morale, introduced uncertainty across the workforce, and disrupted the continuity of ongoing operations. Equally concerning are the national security implications, with the loss and marginalization of experienced personnel and diminished institutional knowledge, drastically impacting the FBI's ability to effectively confront threats from terrorism, espionage.
Hey, just let us illegally spy on the president. Let us illegally spy on all of these Republican senators. Because it's very important you don't criticize us because we're fighting terrorism as well. So could you please just ignore, us targeting one side? By the way, this is an argument that's legitimately made by the Democrats and by the FBI all the time. It's the same argument. Like, guys, you have to keep funding USAID where all this money's going to hate you. Because what about AIDS in Africa? Oh, you want people to die of AIDS? Oh, well, if you don't want people to die of AIDS, then you got to fund all of USAID. Oh, you got to keep funding the university system that's increasingly antithetical to all conservatism. They're funding cancer research. You don't want to fund cancer research? No, we just don't. These fucking organizations can't help themselves but to be corrupt against my way of life, my political party, my interests. So no more money from, oh, you want kids to die then you want kids to die. You got to keep supporting the FBI. Yes, they're targeting you. Of course they are. But what about terrorism? They're also stopping terrorism. So you have to accept that law enforcement's going to target you because we can't quit. We can't quit targeting you. But fuck you if you're against it because then you must support the terrorist. It's so old. Fuck you.
And cyber adversaries. Left unchecked, Director Kash Patel's actions risk inflicting generational harm on an institution central to the safety and security of the nation.
No, left unchecked, Jack Smith and Chris Wray and Rod Rosenstein and James Comey and Bob Mueller created institutional harm, discrediting the FBI. That's the problem, not that we noticed. That's not the issue.
In closing, I would emphasize that the strength of the FBI and our broader system of justice depends on its independence from political influence. It's a principle that those who serve within the Bureau understand as fundamental to their duty. Being an FBI agent is neither a job nor a profession, but rather a vocation. Service to the nation is not a slogan in the FBI, it's a calling, a steadfast commitment to the cause of freedom, democracy, and justice. This ethos is rooted in a tradition of excellence.
Now, I love this because the way this works is now the Democrats, they're going to talk to this guy. Every time it's their chance to talk, they're going to be like, isn't it a shame that Kash Patel fired these people? Oh, yes, they're great. Isn't this, the FBI, they're not corrupt, right? They're great. Oh, of course. And they're just doing their job, right? They saw an investigation. Oh, of course. That's it. That's why this guy's there. So that they can ignore the actual abuses.
That spans generations. The legacy of the G-Man is not merely a cultural artifact, but a standard, one that reflects professionalism, discipline, and an unyielding pursuit of truth. Each new generation of G-men and women inherit not only the responsibilities of the role, but the weight of that legacy and the obligation to uphold it. Day after day, the men and women of the FBI answer the call and choose duty over comfort, principle over expedience, and service over self. Their work is often unseen and their successes unheralded. But the nation is safer because of their steadfast commitment, their adherence to the rule of law, and their fidelity to the ideals that define the FBI. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Ms. Cleveland, you're recognized.
Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Whitehouse, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify concerning the grave constitutional violations inflicted as part of Artic Frost. After the 2020 election, an anti-Trump FBI agent named Tim Thibault attempted to use the Justice Department to destroy the president.
I said T-Bolt. All right, it's Thibault. My bad.
Thibault's efforts led to the launch of Artic Frost. Soon after, Merrick Garland tapped Jack Smith, a hyper-aggressive prosecutor known to overstretch the meaning and intent of the law, to serve as special counsel. Smith proved himself true to form, indicting Trump for allegedly violating a statute enacted in the aftermath of Enron, based in part on a theory of criminal liability the Supreme Court would later hold invalid. The Supreme Court would later also halt Smith's efforts to prosecute Trump for actions that fell within the president's official duties. Beyond being a partisan in his own right, Smith stacked his team with partisan Democrats, such as J.P. Cooney and Ray Holzer. Cooney and Holzer served as Smith's top deputies, and in them we see the clear double standard.
It's like Bob Mueller's team. Bob Mueller's team had like 21 Democrats, no Republicans. There were people on Bob Mueller's team who had literally represented Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation. Imagine that. Imagine that. Hillary Clinton, her entire plan was to smear Trump as colluding with Russia. Her op-ed or opposition research was used to get FISA warrants against the Trump team. And a lawyer that represented her foundation is working on Bob Mueller's team. In addition to people from the FBI like Peter Strzok that are looking to get an insurance policy and stopping Trump. Same with Artic Frost.
Political bias that permeated the DOJ and FBI. Before joining Smith's team, Cooney crafted an outrageous sentencing memorandum that sought to send Trump advisor Roger Stone to prison for 7 to 9 years. Cooney's sentencing recommendations were so unhinged that the then Attorney General William Barr intervened. Cooney responded by...
Who could forget William Barr, who recommended no time for Andy McCabe or James Comey? Remember when he gave us that huge victory of he was like, no, only 2 years for Roger Stone. Remember that? Woo, boy, what a victory that was.
Spreading unfounded rumors that Barr and the acting U.S. Attorney were being improperly political, with media leaks furthering that narrative, eventually leading to an Inspector General investigation. The IG cleared the Trump administration, but chastised Cooney. Holzer, for his part, demonstrated his partisan proclivities when he headed up the Public Integrity Section and refused the FBI's request to open an investigation into the Clinton Foundation. But Holzer's partisan protection racket went further when he withheld a 6-page timeline of the Clinton Foundation investigation from the then U.S. Attorney operating out of Little Rocket. Instead, he provided an abbreviated 2-page summary that omitted all references to interference from the DOJ and the FBI leadership. In contrast, when the target was Trump, Holzer, along with Cooney, drafted a memorandum to justify subpoenaing the toll records of about a dozen members of Congress, notwithstanding internal email discussions acknowledging a clear speech or debate clause problem. They then hid the details of those subpoenas using the prohibited access functionality of Sentinel, which ghosted the FBI records. As this committee well knows, because many of you were victims, Smith approved the subpoenas and obtained the toll records of Senators Blackburn, Graham, Hagerty, Hawley, Loomis, Johnson, Kennedy, Scott, Sullivan, and Tuberville. Only Senator Cruz escaped the invasion into his privacy and the violation of the speech or debate clause because his cell phone provider questioned the subpoena. From this subcommittee's January 7th hearing, you also know that Smith's team sought a non-disclosure order from Chief Judge James Boasberg, apparently without informing him that the targets were members of Congress. I say apparently because Chairman Cruz's request for the non-disclosure application to be unsealed has been ignored.
Now, the argument here is Boasberg didn't know that the target of these subpoenas were senators because they would be protected. There's like specific rules, as they'll get to here later. There's specific rules that are like, yeah, you can't do that, right? You can't subpoena these records because of speech and debate clause, etc. So the argument is, well, Boasberg didn't know. So either Jack Smith's office was negligent in not telling Boasberg, or it would be negligent in Boasberg, like you didn't even look at who was being targeted. It's a joke.
Yet again, we see the double standard and the weaponization. Judge Boasberg has still failed to order Smith and his prosecutors to show cause for why they should not be held in contempt for concealing the members of Congress were the ones who were being targeted. This fact should not be...
Right. So if Boasberg gave a bad order that would be unlawful because he was misled, then he would hold Jack Smith in contempt. But he hasn't. Instead, he's holding the Trump team in contempt because they didn't turn planes around when he gave an order that were already in the air with Kim Argüello Garcia. That he'll hold in contempt, but not Jack Smith's team lying to him. Of course, the truth is they probably didn't lie.
Ignored, if you are to believe Smith and the administrative office of the court's testimony that Judge Boasberg did not know that your identities were involved. It makes absolutely no sense that Boasberg would not enter a show cause order to hold Smith accountable for violating your rights, given Judge Boasberg's nearly year-long crusade to hold a member of the Trump administration in contempt.
That's exactly right. And this is, by the way, this is the same. Their bullshit denials are disproven by their actions, right? Take the media, for example. The media will be like, we didn't know. We didn't know that Joe Biden was a human vegetable. We didn't know. We didn't know that we were being lied to by Adam Schiff about the Russiagate thing. And yet they keep bringing all those people on. If I was Jake Tapper and I had Adam Schiff on day after day saying, I seen the evidence that Trump colluded with Russia, and then it turned out to all be bullshit, the next time he came on, I'd be like, hey, fuck you. You made me look terrible. My audience watches me because they think that I'm diligently reporting the truth, and you lied to our fucking face for 3 years. So go fuck yourself. Now, you'd probably say it with a little more couth than that, but you see the point. But instead, they're just like, it's unfortunate. Don't blame us. We were lied to. Anyways, here's Adam Schiff again. How you doing, Adam? Same shit. If you're a judge and you're like, wait, what? I just gave an illegal order because Jack Smith's team misled me? I'm going to hold him in contempt. But instead, Boasberg will be like, wait, what? I gave an illegal order because Jack Smith's team misled me? Oh, well, what's on TV tonight? Meanwhile, everyone in Trump's team, contempt, contempt, contempt. It's almost like Boasberg wanted to go after Trump, and he still does. Nah, I'm sure that can't be the case.
We now know that Smith violated the speech or debate clause, rubber stamped by Judge Boasberg. He went further and he subpoenaed the toll records of Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker, and Chairman Jim Jordan, again under cover of a non-disclosure order. Add to that the hundreds more served on individual Republicans, including Trump's attorneys, Republican organizations such as Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. And they didn't seek merely toll records, but also bank records, which revealed the donor base. The breadth of these constitutional intrusions is unprecedented. But to recap, Smith unconstitutionally was appointed special counsel in violation of the Appointments Clause. The subpoenas of the toll records violated the speech or debate clause. The vast and unjustified subpoenas to Republicans and the organizations that were connected to them violated the First Amendment associational rights. The targeting of Trump's attorneys implicates the Sixth Amendment right to counsel. And using prohibited access to bury records is a huge due process violation that raises potential violations of Brady. Smith and his team must be held accountable. Thank you.
All right, super chats. Jared Bird, $10 says, crazy they never talk about Hillary's emails, Barack Obama and Operation Fast and Furious, or the IRS targeting conservatives. Nah, they're all good. Trust us. Oh, I should do this. There we go. Intel Wild, $5. Thank you. Says, watching from behind Rob in chat, but Rob's cooking as usual. Thank you, sir. The great Zach Gelpy, $10 says, the world's smallest violin should be playing. This guy, while this guy's talking. Totally agree. Just an FBI stooge. We never do anything wrong. We're serious men. We're never political. Ignore all the evidence. And Intel Wild, $20. Ted Cruz. Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those that bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. Yeah, I don't want to hear my Congress people talking like that. Fuck that. It's fine, all well and good for your personal beliefs. Great, whatever. But when we're asking, like, well, why are you advocating certain policies to say, well, my religion tells me that I'll be blessed if I bless the current state of Israel. Not a fan of that. Even if I say geopolitically it would make sense to be allied with Israel, I'm not a fan of that language. All right. We shall proceed.
Thank you. Let's start with the foundation. Ms. Cleveland, Jack Smith issued nearly 200 subpoenas. Is that correct?
Yes.
Those subpoenas targeted over 400 Republican individuals and organizations, correct?
Correct.
Many of whom had no connection to those who entered the Capitol on January 6th, correct?
Absolutely.
And in fact, some of those organizations didn't even exist on January 6th. Is that correct?
It is.
So we're not talking about a narrow investigation. We're talking about a sweeping operation targeting virtually the entirety of the other side politically.
It was a fishing expedition.
So let's turn to the Constitution. Subpoenaing the toll records of...
Remember Warren Smith covering Destiny, talking to his mod, saying exactly this. Destiny said, what we need is an excuse for a fishing expedition. That's what we need. That's what they've been doing since 2016. That is the status quo.
Members of Congress, does that raise serious constitutional concerns?
Absolutely. And in fact, we have the PIN who notified the special counsel's office of those concerns. And Jack Smith had apparently said that he was going to consult with the Solicitor General, according to the release of the information from Senator Grassley this morning. Yet when he was deposed by the House and was specifically asked if he spoke with the Solicitor General, he said, on this discrete issue, no.
Among other issues, it raises significant issues with the speech and debate clause, correct?
Absolutely.
So much so that, as you noted, when Jack Smith subpoenaed AT&T to get my toll records, AT&T refused to comply with the subpoena because they concluded that it violated the speech and debate clause. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. And they backed down.
Jack Smith did.
So in other words, Ted Cruz used Verizon, or I'm sorry, AT&T. And AT&T was like, no, this subpoena is unlawful. It violates the speech and debate clause. Basically, the speech and debate clause says, like, because senators are allowed to speak about things in debate, you can't sue them for libel, for lying, and shit like that, because it would chill them talking about stuff and advocating certain things. So it's called the speech and debate clause. It would violate the speech and debate clause to subpoena their records because they're allowed to talk about all sorts of shit. And AT&T was like, no, we're not going to do that. We think it violates. And Jack Smith was like, okay. And back down. That's what they're talking about here. And the implication is, well, if it was so important to get these records that you were going to do the, like, damn near unprecedented going after 12 senators, not accusing them of leaking, not accusing them of a crime, just like maybe they talked about alternate electors. We don't know. We don't know. 400 something organizations and people. We don't know. Fuck it. We're just going to hoover it all up. Oh, wasn't that important. You're right. Violates speech and debate clause. Oh, well, no big deal.
Not try to enforce that subpoena, did he?
He did not.
He did not go to court and litigate the matter, did he?
He did not.
Does that suggest, as it does to me, that he knew damn well what he was doing was illegal and would not be upheld in court?
It does suggest that.
When the federal government subpoenas donor lists, internal communications, organization records, does that implicate the First Amendment and also freedom of association in particular?
It does, and the Supreme Court made that clear in the NAACP case.
Mr. Chamberlain, aside from the legal violations, what specific crimes, if any, were actually uncovered as a result of the Artic Frost investigation?
I'm not aware of any crimes that were uncovered.
Would the senators, donors, organizations, and individuals who were surveilled and subpoenaed have ever learned about the Artic Frost investigation had Trump not won in 2024?
Probably not, mainly because of these non-disclosure orders, but also, I mean, the fact that a lot of these records we're now just learning about them because they were in these prohibited access files only available to the FBI director. So if the FBI director was a Democrat, there's no reason to think we'd know about them.
How would you compare the scope of the violations in Artic Frost to Watergate?
I think, if anything, it might even be greater. I mean, the scope of this in terms of the sheer number of people and organizations affected, and as I discussed, I mean,
it's no doubt greater. Like, by magnitudes. Magnitudes greater.
This brazen violation of attorney-client privilege, wiretapping a phone call between Susie Wiles and her lawyer, these are egregious offenses. And you know, if Watergate was just about a single break-in, I mean, this is effectively, compound that by 200.
All right, Mr. O'Leary, I appreciate your service. One of the things you testified is you said, quote, the effectiveness and legitimacy of the FBI depend on its independence from political influence. I very much agree with that, and I will say as an alumnus of the Department of Justice, I am deeply saddened, and frankly, I'm angry that under President Biden, the Department of Justice and the FBI were weaponized and its integrity badly, badly compromised. You are right, that's how the FBI is supposed to behave, and that's how the Department of Justice is supposed to behave. So Jack Smith was not investigating a crime based on evidence. He issued subpoenas to get the toll records of the following senators: Mike Lee, seated to my right; Josh Hawley, Lindsey Graham, John Kennedy, seated to my right; Marsha Blackburn, Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, Bill Haggerty, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Cynthia Lummis, and myself.
Check out my stink bug. Sorry. He's interested. He likes...
That's over 20% of the Republicans in the United States Senate. Mr. O'Leary, is it consistent with the obligations of the Department of Justice and the FBI to issue subpoenas with no factual basis and no legal basis?
Senator, it is not, and in my experience, FBI agents would never approach a matter without the proper justification and articulable facts to open their investigation. And
Okay.
Hey, thank you for the raid. Really appreciate it. Kate Chesses, thank you. I hope I pronounced that wrong. All right. I hope I pronounced it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good. So you said they would never do that. Judge Boasberg signed an order, I'm holding the order right here, in which he concludes, and I'm going to read, the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure, in other words, notifying the senators on that list, will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy of the investigation. Are you aware of any factual basis whatsoever that a dozen senators will destroy evidence?
I am not, but I will tell you that non-disclosure orders are a routine part of investigations.
Based on facts. Give
Right. A non-disclosure order based on facts. You have to give facts to justify that. So what are the facts? What are the facts that Boasberg saw that Jack Smith put forward that was like, here's why these senators will destroy evidence? Where are they? Where are the facts? This guy says the FBI wouldn't do that, so let's hear what the facts are.
me any hypothetical fact. By the way, do you know any facts that I will destroy evidence? Let's take it me personally.
I cannot,
Because Jack Smith went into court and said, I will destroy evidence if I know about the subpoena. And this clown signed the order one after the other after the other. Are you aware of any basis? Look, I'm a member of the bar. I take my obligations seriously. The FBI signed off on that. Mike Lee concluded he would destroy evidence. John Kennedy, well, Louisiana, maybe. I will say, I'll give a special dispensation for the great state of Louisiana. But there is no basis. By the way, is it consistent with DOJ's obligation to also ask a judge to violate the law and not inform the judge of it?
no, it would not be.
Well, 2 U.S.C. section 6628 explicitly bars non-disclosure orders applying to the Senate. And yet, in the lawless Department of Justice, I assume they didn't tell Judge Boasberg, hey, we're asking you to violate the law. Would you sign this? Do you assume that as well?
You would have to ask the DOJ that, but you make a good point, Senator.
Oh, wait a minute. You make a good point. I thought no. So the law specifically says you can't have a non-disclosure agreement or non-disclosure when it comes to these sorts of things with the Senate. You just said the FBI would never do that. It's like, okay, well, that's clear cut. So do you think they told Boasberg, by the way, this is violating this law? You make a good point. No shit.
Thank you. Ranking Member Whitehouse.
Just to follow up on that point, Mr.
Oh, here we go. Ma January 6th, ma Kash Patel fired people, ma FBI's always been good, right? Here we go.
O'Leary, is the reason that a prosecutor would pursue a non-disclosure order for a toll record subpoena necessarily that it is the subject of the subpoena who would attempt to interfere with or obstruct the investigation, as opposed to the subject of the investigation who would attempt to interfere with and obstruct the investigation?
Senator, it depends on the investigation. It could be the subject of the investigation. It could be associates. The idea of a non-disclosure order is to not really let an individual know that they're under investigation.
But one
that could
cannot
change their
infer
behavior.
from the existence of a non-disclosure order any accusation that the subject of the order was intending to interfere or obstruct. It could just as easily be that it was actually the subject of the investigation, one of the conspirators, for instance, who the court was concerned about, who the prosecutor was concerned about.
It certainly could be, but as I was,
There we go.
See? Oh, well, there's a law that says you can't do it at the Senate, but maybe they just did it because Trump. Because it's Trump. Now, Trump already knew that Jack Smith had been appointed, so the idea, it's like, well, they couldn't tip their hand. So if Trump knew that they were investigating, he could have destroyed shit. Except there's that pesky law that says you can't do this to members of the Senate. Oh, well, maybe it was they had to do that to the Senate because Trump. Because had Trump known they were investigating him, he may have destroyed evidence. But he already knew the appointment of Jack Smith was public.
Communicating to Senator Cruz, non-disclosure orders are a routine part of FBI investigations.
Understood. So in your view, what has happened to the FBI and DOJ's national security capabilities in the last 15 months?
They've been decimated. There's been generational damage done.
And with respect to the quiet bastion you referred to, and the standards of virtue and integrity that you spoke so passionately about, were those standards of virtue and integrity, the fidelity, bravery, and integrity of the FBI, met by agents who Kash Patel then turned on and fired?
There is rampant morale, degradation, uncertainty amongst the ranks, and really disheartened career federal public servants who've been dismissed without cause. And
Because, in fact, their colleagues understood that they, in fact, met those standards for fidelity, bravery, and integrity, and were nevertheless fired, correct?
correct.
DOJ and the FBI run under close institutional checks and balances designed to protect the
Just
integrity of the
bullshit,
organization.
just rambling
Were those
bullshit.
applicable to special counsel?
I would assume so. I wasn't involved in that investigation at all, but I can speak to the process that Washington Field Office would follow, and those are the agents that supported that investigation.
And they would follow traditional, regular FBI guidelines
The
and
documents that I
controls.
was able to review demonstrated that.
Are you aware that
Did you know that if you investigate corruption at the FBI, it could lower the morale? How is this not? But what if I said them criticizing Pam Bondi and Kash Patel's lowering the morale? So you can't criticize them. The morale's very low because you're criticizing them, right? The criticizing of ICE, that's lowering the morale of ICE. The criticizing of Tom Homan and Greg Bovino, that's lowering the morale. You think for a second, Democrats will be like, fuck that, we don't care. We think there's corruption. But whatever you do, don't look at the corruption when it's so pathetic. Fuck you. We don't give a fuck about the morale of a corrupt organization that continually for 3 elections in a row has put their fucking thumb on the scale. We do not give a shit. If it's me, I'd have disbanded the motherfuckers day one. If I was president. It is not salvageable.
the Trump Department of Justice in the first term subpoenaed information from members of Congress and members of Congress's staff, including toll records?
Senator, the FBI conducting public corruption investigations has been part of its mission for years. I know it's probably disconcerting to any member of Congress or a public official, but the FBI does it with the same integrity that it conducts any investigation. I would say to a fellow Irishman, we would probably work with them on an investigation, but you know, the FBI pursues these despite what side of the aisle you're on.
And they did in the first Trump term of office, and that included.
Did they have a non-disclosure agreement with Adam Schiff, with Eric Swalwell? Was that on a fishing expedition with 400 and other names and organizations? Or was it specifically because of leaks coming out, specifically from those staffs?
Getting non-disclosure orders so that the members of Congress did not know their toll records had been subpoenaed, correct?
That is correct. It's routine.
Tell me a little bit, as we wrap up here, about the work of the CI-12 unit and what condition it is now in.
Work a variety of people, just
Knowledge that fairly
in this.
is up. Thank you. With respect to the question of the NDOs and the reason for that, I'd like to put into the record the letter that I wrote to Speaker Johnson, giving what I consider to be the accurate background related to that, dated January 15, 2026.
Without objection, will be entered into the record.
Thank you.
Also, without objection, I want to introduce into the record a November 2nd, 2023 letter from Chairman Grassley to the DOJ Office of Inspector General, raising concerns that in 2017, DOJ subpoenaed personal phone and email records of Republicans and Democrat congressional staff. I'm also entering into the record a November 8th, 2023 letter from me, Chairman Grassley, and Senator Lee to Attorney General Garland, raising similar concerns and requesting information on the subpoenas of congressional staff. Contrary to what Senator Whitehouse said in his opening, Republicans did raise concerns about the DOJ obtaining records from congressional staff of both parties. And I will say, just a minute ago, Mr. O'Leary, you were being asked by Senator Whitehouse about investigating members of Congress, and it is certainly true that DOJ has a long tradition if there's evidence of particular misconduct. For example, our former colleague, Senator Menendez, is currently incarcerated in prison for corruption. And if you've got evidence of criminal conduct of one individual, the Department of Justice has an obligation to investigate that. Would you agree that's qualitatively different than a fishing expedition targeting 20% of the Republicans in the Senate. Would you agree that's qualitatively different?
I'm not familiar with the details of either investigation, so I wouldn't want to speculate.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you be troubled if tomorrow the Trump Department of Justice issued a subpoena for the phone records of every Democrat that sits on the Judiciary Committee?
Not if it was based on factual evidence, specific and articulable facts.
Well, let me be clear. I'd be damn troubled, and that would be an abuse of power. And I'm going to predict not a single Democrat's going to say even a word about the abuse of power on their side.
Yep.
And that double standard is troubling. Senator Lee.
Thank you very much, Senator Cruz, for
We're going to get through Senator Lee, and then we'll pause to read super chats and all that stuff and see where we're at.
convening this hearing. It's an important topic. Well, about a half a century ago, President Nixon resigned. He did so under pressure on the basis of public outrage that stemmed from a break-in at DNC headquarters. It's an act of lawfare, you might say, or maybe better said, political espionage. Today, the media and my Democrat colleagues have fallen conspicuously silent when confronted with a scandal that in some ways is of much larger proportions because it involves the official law enforcement apparatus of the U.S. government in a much more direct way than that one did. President Biden's systematic weaponization of the Department of Justice and federal law enforcement against his political opponents is a development of staggering proportions. And by development, I mean scandal. Just like the Watergate break-in, Arctic Frost was ultimately an attempt to sway the results of a presidential election. But this comparison may even be unfair to President Nixon, who never attempted to quash dissent by putting the opposition candidate in prison for trumped-up charges. Now, thankfully, the Biden administration failed in that misguided effort. President Trump was elected by the people to become the 47th president of the United States. But we have to ensure that this kind of lawfare can't occur again. Mr. Chamberlain, I'd like to start with you. Your testimony focuses, among other things, on an FBI recording of a 2023 phone call between Susie Wiles, who was at the time managing President Trump's presidential campaign, and her lawyer. Now, according to the FBI, the lawyer was aware of the recording, but isn't it true that the lawyer denied that he had ever consented to that arrangement?
That's true. That was widely reported.
And if, in fact, the lawyer did not consent, your testimony today is that this would have been and was an illegal wiretap by the FBI in the absence of her lawyer's consent with the FBI.
That's correct.
And the FBI designated this as a prohibited file to prevent anyone from finding out about it.
That seems to be correct, yes.
Okay, so they did something they weren't supposed to do, then they designated it as a prohibited file to cover it up. Now, in general, should the president be able to direct the FBI to spy on the campaign of his political opponent?
Absolutely not.
And isn't listening to a private conversation between a presidential campaign manager and her lawyer in many ways much more serious as an abuse of government power than an attempted wiretap of the DNC headquarters in Watergate?
Correct, because there's two interests being invaded. First,
Correct.
it's just the wiretap generally, but then it's
Right. It's the wiretap of your opponent, plus it's the violation of attorney-client privilege.
doubly invasive because it's supposed to be a privileged conversation.
A privileged conversation, which regardless of who's involved in it, is supposed to be privileged. And that takes on additional flavor and additional degrees of seriousness when that person happens to be a client represented by a lawyer who happens to be managing the presidential campaign of the then incumbent president's lead and exclusive challenger, effectively. Ms. Cleveland, you referenced the FBI's use of protected access tag for Arctic Frost subpoenas. What is this functionality and why does it raise due process concerns in your mind?
So prohibited access is a functionality which makes the records invisible. So when there's an investigation going on, the FBI agents are doing searches maybe by keywords of names, it will come back and say there are no results. They will believe there are no results. We already have evidence that this has been used in.
So think about this. Let's say that they spy on, there's an investigation on Michael Jordan, right? They put it as protected or prohibited status. Now, 5 years after the investigation's open and closed, it's not been made public knowledge. No one knows about it. So there's a Freedom of Information Act request that comes through. We want all the files on Michael Jordan. FBI agent trying to comply with it types in Michael Jordan, 0 records. Yeah, we don't have anything. That agent's not lying. He doesn't know that those records exist. Only the people that had the clearance to see that would end up being able to see it. So in effect, It's all but invisible except to the people that knew the investigation was occurring. This is why they said earlier, had Kamala won, the Democrat FBI director wasn't going to be like, oh, and by the way, here's all the spying we did on all of these Republicans. And no one would have known because it would have been prohibited. So when you searched it on their database, it wouldn't show up.
The investigation of Trump, we also have evidence that has been used in other investigations that were high profile. From the due process concern, a lawyer is entitled to have evidence that is exculpatory to their clients. If there is exculpatory evidence or even evidence that calls into credibility, that the credibility of one of the witnesses, that has to be turned over. It can't possibly—
For Brady and Giglio purposes. Yeah,
exactly,
right.
Brady Giglio. It can't be turned over if they don't know about it. That's a huge problem from the due process perspective.
Right. So you're forestalling up front what would be part of the defendant's due process in the event of eventual criminal proceedings. Now, really quickly before my time expires, tell me whether to what extent Judge Boasberg knew or would have had reason to know what the NDOs were actually covering.
So without seeing the application, it's impossible to say he should have known. But this morning when Senator Grassley released his documents, it indicated that Smith's team was speaking with the prior chief judge of the DC District Court about subpoenas and executive privilege. So that raised the concern of, was this conversation going on with Judge Boasberg as well? If not, did Smith's team actually decide not to have the same kind of conversations because they were concerned that Judge Boasberg wouldn't go along with it? So we don't know what Judge Boasberg knew, but we do know he didn't demand Smith come in and explain himself, as he has done time and time again with the Trump administration in trying to hold someone in contempt there.
Okay, so this would be outside the norm, not only for this type of action, but out of norm even for what Judge Boasberg has done in other cases.
In the contempt, in calling them in for contempt, absolutely.
Thank you.
We talked about that earlier as well. All right. I had to take a pee break. I think I owe 3 stupid whip songs. So we'll do that. We'll wrap up and do all that stuff. First pee break, then I'll be right back. And I have one other thing to address. A little drama thing. So, be right back. All right. Yeah, I slept about 10 hours, I think, after the marathon. All right. Some super chats, drama thing, 2 quick drama things real quick. Super chats. 559 Texan, thank you so much. $5 says, greetings, brother. Hope all's well. Pray for peace. The good Lord's in control. We should put our faith and trust in him. Thank you, man. Totally agree. And Jay, $5 for the chair and for Stinky. I don't know where he went. He was crawling all around. And let me just double check. Thank you to everyone on Rumble as well. I can see chats better now. There's still, I gotta tweak it. 2 quick things. HN, I know you're listening, sending me emails. You're welcome to come back on the show and get unbanned if you agree to call in. Then you could defend your racism. And if we think that you're sufficiently apologetic for your grotesque racism, then we'll allow you back on the chat. So appreciate the email. Colin will have a conversation about what a disgusting racist you are. No problem. Then I was made aware during this stream that apparently there was a bit of a struggle session going on over at Speakeasy's channel where it looks as if people are claiming that Andrew Wilson must, I don't know, somehow distance himself from Speakeasy because of some bullshit, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit about any of this drama. I will associate with the people that I feel like I want to associate with. Speakeasy's been nothing but helpful to me. He's been a very decent person. I'm uninterested in people from the scope of the internet that are some of the most absurd people demanding that other people live up to standards, etc., etc. Go fuck yourself. I don't care. So I have no idea what Andrew said. That's my take on it. I have nothing more to say about it. Go fuck yourself. These people don't give a shit. It's not about standards. It's about we want to be petty and tear shit down because we're incapable of doing anything ourselves. So there you go. That's what it's about. I owe those people nothing. Go fuck yourselves. So, all right. It's that time of night. I got to play these stupid songs. Now, I hate this. I just did this for 28 hours. But for the sake of fairness, people do donate to hear these stupid songs. So if you're leaving, perfectly understand it. We will cover more politics tomorrow between 9 and 10 p.m. So tune in for that. For those sadomasochists that want to stick around, I'm being generous, even though Flavius, to my knowledge, didn't say that he wanted 3 whip songs, but we're going to go ahead and go with it. So we'll play 3 of these damn songs. At this point, any donation that is $100 will play a whip wheel song, $150 to request a specific one, $250 to create a new one, and if we go over an even 100 number, that's an additional song. So a $100 donation would be 2 songs at this point. I'm not going to stand on ceremony. We'll just play the damn songs. There we go. Apologies to everyone who rightfully thinks this is really stupid. You're right. But it's our stupid, damn it. Okay. There's so many new ones. If you missed the excellent 28-hour extravaganza, enjoy. Oh! There's one. Yippee. Next. This is fun.
There's a way where there's a whip.
Oh!
There's a way
One more.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. We don't wanna go to war today, but the Lord of the Last says nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Where there's a whip, there's a way. 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 Left, right, left. Where there's a way, there's a way. Left, right. Where there's a way, there's a way. Left, right. A crack in the back says we're gonna fight. We're gonna march all day and night and more. For we are the slaves of the Dark Lord's war.
Chop Chop, what's up? $49 the next whip. Thank you for the 20. And then Wade Bugs for 20 says, man, I miss $20 whip Wednesdays. Yeah, me too. Not really. I can't believe you people still want to hear these songs after 500 and something. 527, I think we said. I was fine. I was happy to stream today. I was happy to talk about politics. And in the back of my head, I'm like, listen, on one hand, I hope we make 350. I hope we make millions of dollars. I hope someone sends me a fucking $1 million. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, surely it'll be a slow dono night. People aren't going to want to hear these whip songs. Perfectly fine by me. And now! Well, anyways. Alexander! That's crazy, man. $20. Thank you. Alexander, I have no idea how much money he gave the other night, but it had to be thousands of dollars he gave to Whip Song. So thank you so much. Oh, he gives another 10. Thank you so much, Alexander. What a champ. All right. All right. I can't get mad at him. I mean, I can, but I won't. Oh, please be a short one. Oh, no. Whew, that was close.
Whip, there's a way. name.
This one doesn't count. Shit.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. We don't want to go to war today, but the Lord of the Lash says nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where the whip, where the whip. Where there's a whip, the whip. Yeah. Where there's a whip, there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way, there's a way. Where there's a whip, left, right, left, right, left, right. Where there's a whip, there's a way, left, right. A crack in the back says we're gonna fight. We're gonna march all day and night and more. For we are the slaves of the dark Lord's war. There's a way, there's a way out.
All right. That one was too short. Doesn't count. If it's another short one, it counts. So that's life. No! What a fucking pile of shit. Absolute garbage.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. We don't wanna go to war today, but the Lord of the Lash says nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, left, right, left, right, left. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Left, right. A crack on the back says we're gonna fight. We're gonna march all day and night and more. For we are the slaves of the Dark Lord's war.
All right. Do we get it out of our system? Everybody happy? Oh, shit. No, no. There we go. Everybody happy? We did it. We've successfully annoyed the piss out of me tonight. Everybody good? We're $99 away from another one. $100 will be two. It played through. It played. So I'm going to, a reminder, Thursday I'm leaving. I'm going to Kentucky, and I'll be there until Sunday. My brother-in-law does show trucks, like big rigs, and he has one in the Louisville Truck Show that's going to do very well. Now I'll try to stream via my phone some, but I can't guarantee how well those streams will be. And I might be out partying with some truck drivers and, so. Leave the whip wheel with chair. Nope. All right, what are we at here? Who do we got on that we could raid tonight? Oh, Speakeasy was getting some bullshit. We'll raid over to him. Well, it was. What can you do? Yeah, I'm sure they'd really respect it. That's cool. They're all fucking like manly dudes. I heard Andrew was. What's it all about? Like Speakeasy's personal life, and like, I'm so fucking tired of it. These people, you know, fuck them. Yeah, hey truckers. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Are we done? We done donating? It's been a fun day. It's nice to get back to actual fucking like political shit that matters. He was just mad that Andrew Reid's over to Speakeasy. Just the pettiest bullshit. It was very nice to do. So, Alexander says 1 second, Rob. All right, I'll wait 1 second. Given I don't really want to interact with that sort of stuff right now, seeing as how litigious people could be. So we'll wait. And then we'll address some of that stuff later, but I choose to not really respond at this point. So I'm going to stay out of the drama. Alexander, you absolute psychopath. $100. Which will be 2 songs. All right. Now listen, I'll play the damn songs. I will. Alexander, I appreciate it. But I got to say, at this point, we might as well go for 200% of the goal. Are you guys going to make Alexander again carry the load? Just saying. He's really been an insane MVP here. What the hell is this one? Oh, good gracious.
There's a whip, there's a
One more. I got it.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. We don't want to go to war today, but the Lord of the last says nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Well, there's a way, but there's a way. 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 Well, there's a way, there's a way. Well, there's a way, but there's a way. Left, right. A crack on the back says we're gonna fight. And we're gonna march all day and night and more, for we wait.
Motherfuckers.
The slaves
Ah!
of the Dark Lord's war. Left, right.
Alexander, thank you. Appreciate another 100. I have to say, you guys are, you're dedicated.
There's a way. Where there's a way. There's a way. There's a way. We don't wanna go to war today, but the Lord of the last says nay, nay, nay.
Stephanie, thank you so much. $14. That's really good. 200% of the goal. You guys are amazing. You really are. And mean. You're also mean. Oh, let's just do the goal thing again. All right, last one. Hopefully.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. We don't want to go to war today, but the Lord of the Land says nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Yeah. There's a way. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. There's a way. There's a way. A crack on the back says we're gonna fight. We're gonna march all day and night and more. Oh, we are the slaves of the Dark Lord's war.
Everybody happy? We did it? Oh my God. Alexander! Thank you so much, my friend. Another $100. You fucking lunatic. Thank you, man. Oh, I got to show it. Holy cow. What a...
There's a way. 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 Left, 2, 3. Where there's a way. There's a way. Where there's a way. There's a way. Where there's a way. There's a way. Where there's a way. Where there's a way. There's a way. Where there's a way. There's a way. Where there's a way. There's a way. Where there's a
Okay. We got through the Jurassic Jamboree. Motherfuckers. For the holidays, you know?
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. We don't wanna go to war today, but the Lord of the Lash says nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, where there's a whip, where there's a whip, boys and white. Left, right, left, right, left. Where there's a whip, there's a way. A crack on the back says we're gonna fight. We're gonna
Motherfucker!
all day and night, eyes and for we are the slaves of the Dark Lord's war.
Intel Wild, $5 says this Will Chamberlain only has 5 bodies. Wilt Distilled had over 20,000. The still. And then, my goodness, Alexander, another $100. Unbelievable. Says, well, after 2 more, Rob. Good night. Thank you. I don't even know what to say. Someone said in the chat, this is where we're at. This is where I'm at in my life. Look at this. Rob deserves it. Does that mean like, oh, that's cool. Rob's getting donos. He deserves it. So it's someone who likes me, or is it someone that hates me? Like, good. Fuck this guy. Rob deserves to be tormented. I don't even know anymore. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, there's a whip, there's a way. Well, there's a whip, there's a way. We don't wanna go to war today, but the Lord of the Land says, nay, 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 nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Well, there's a whip, there's a way. Well, there's a whip, there's a way. Well, there's a whip, there's a way. Why that, why that, why that, why that, that, there's a whip. Why that, why that, why that, why that, well, there's a whip. Why that, 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 well, there's a whip. A crack on the back says we're gonna fight. We're gonna march all day and night and more. For we are the slaves of the Dark Lord's war. To the west of that, bat. Shamo masho and a messing. Why, where there's a way. Why, where there's a way. Why, for we are the street.
What? We already heard this one.
There's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. We don't wanna go to war today, but the Lord of the Land says, nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Well, there's a way, but there's a way.
Thank you guys so much. I think we're all been tortured enough. We've all been tormented enough. I think so. I'm gonna, just because I'm a very polite guy, instead of running, I'm gonna do the opposite. I have to use the restroom like you wouldn't believe. So I'm gonna go to the restroom, but I won't leave you hanging. I'll play a song for you while I'm in the restroom. I hope I'm back in time because I also hear my dog barking. So I will play a song though. It's not a whip song though. I'm not going to do that. That's too much. But I will do this for you. I'm still working on my Somalian daycare to make real money. So enjoy my little Somalian song. I'll be right back.
Tira Karur fara badnaya narka magasho kala duan kosol dhan kamajallinda kada istakata ainu char kubarano hannano sannano hannano sannano wanjek lahai halkan waqbadan kabarnaya zero midab shiko yojar qalbi gaga ay ifti minaya sannano 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 wanjek lahai
لو خطد وخان كورنا لبو سعدي أفرتا كدب شمبير ساويرا أيان رينجينا شغار بلوك كسانا كودر
साहिब के यरवू इचाविया कलद मा आहा इसको दे मरकले मरका सखन ओफल बसच पिया गचन कोर उता फरखद बा सोचोताई खन्नानो
زنانو
खन्नानो
زنانو
वांजक लहे हल्का वह बदन कबरनया जीरो मिडब शिको योचर qalbi gaga ए इफ्ती मिनया
مرنوان هيسنا مرنوا خان آخرنا خرفو
Kosolyo kailo farkhad leh guriga markan ado
والد كيوان توسا زمان مان تبرتيدن خنانو زنانو زنانو منانو
wajek lahi halka wahbadan kabaranaya tiro midab shiko yochar qalbi gaga e ifti minaya Subak sore yang kachna bakta yar garab kasar hoyo dum kasho deg deg adabaro way kutira karur fara badnaya narka magasho kala duan kosol dhan kamajallinda kada istakata ainu char kubarano hannano
زنانو
hannano
زنانو
wanjek lahai halkan waqbadan kabarnaya zero midab shiko yo صوتي غنانو 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 وانجت لهي هلكا وهبدن كبرنيا تيرو ميدب شيكو يوچر قلبي غاغا اي افتي منيا.
Sorry. Apologies. My dog was freaking out. I thought she just had to go to the bathroom. There was a cat on my porch. That's why my dog was freaking out. I thought she'll scratch at the door or something if she has to go to the bathroom. But she was acting like crazy. So I was like, oh, maybe she's like sick in the stomach or something. Really needs out there. But no, it was a damn cat. It's a nice cat. I've tried to goad it into the house. But, so. Oh, motherfucker. Xander, who's not Alexander, Super Real Promise, on Rumble, gives $100 and says it was always going to 100. Thank you, Xander. Anyways, there's a cat. Oh, I got the wrong background on. We don't want I can't handle the Somali background. There's a estranged cat outside my house. My son's really trying to talk me into getting a cat. I don't know. Anyways, if you hear me run downstairs real quick again, it's because my dog's freaking out over this cat. All right.
Where there's a whip, there's a way. Where there's a whip, there's a way. We don't wanna go to war today, but the Lord of the Last says nay, nay, nay. We're gonna march all day, all day, all day. Where there's a whip, there's a way. 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 Left, right, left, right, left. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Where there's a whip, there's a way. Left, right. A crack on the back says we're gonna fight. We're gonna march all day and night and more. For we are the slaves of the dark Lord's war.
This is a nightmare. All right. I did not fall asleep on the shitter, contrary to what. I didn't run away. I didn't check myself into a psychiatric facility. All right. We did it. We're all good. Everybody got it out of their system. We good? All right. I think we've reached critical mass on the insanity. Complimentary Disney. Oh, now wait a second. That's YouTube. $1,000 donor on YouTube's always been the rule. I will only do it this time because Alexander is a G. That's it. Because I am much appreciative of him and Wade. But normally the rules are... This is it. Enjoy. Enjoy.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. We don't wanna go to war today.
Yeah, that's it.
But the Lord of the Lash says, nay, nay.
Oh, motherfucker.
I'll come back for one! I made it back for one, Rob! Like this! I'm busy, but I'll come back for this one, Rob!
Thanks.
Dance with me!
No, I'm good.
Like this! Like this! Like that!
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Like kid got on me, look at that! Dance with me, Rob! Yes, we are. Fantastic. And for the rest of you, obviously I'm having baby problems tonight, so I'm not here, alright? So
Well, good luck to you, Evers.
we're trying. We're having a little bit of issues, but I love this show enough to come back for one Disney Whip song.
Thank you.
So
We'll be...
love you guys.
I'll be thinking of you, man. Your baby.
Alright.
It's not playing again. All right, you happy? Everybody happy? We get out of here now? All right. That's it? All right. Now, I think we're raiding over to Speakeasy, assuming he's still going. Let me check just real quick. I think he is. All right. You guys are the best, but horribly insane people. We survived another night. Tomorrow night, we back. We'll see what the news of the day holds. There's a bunch of stuff to cover that I didn't cover today. I wanted to go deep in on this Artic Frost stuff, so I hope you all appreciated that. To me, that shit's very interesting. The corruption, the blatant corruption, spying, utilization of the FBI. It is why I was basically a single issue voter. Disband the FBI. Seeing as how Vivek talked about it the most, that's why I supported him. Yeah, only 22.5 more hours to go. No, thank you. Had enough of that shit. So we'll see what tomorrow holds. Incidentally, the next special stream, I figure I'll do one every 3 months. Audience themed stream. It will be the first annual Blasterbot Dino Battle. It's gonna be hot. The Blasterbot Dino Battle, where you'll get to compete with each other. We'll see how it goes, but we're gonna wait like 3 months or so. So that'll be By that point, we'll be in World War III and all the Jewish people will control us, whatever. So, yeah, we're going to do it. So we'll set it out for sometime in June. Towards the end of June, we will set it out. So it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Bring back the chat of the week. I will. We do have a calendar full of Neuron holidays. So, all right. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Thanks to Avarice. Keep Avarice and his family in your prayers. Hopefully everything's going on with the baby. Just normal, hopefully slightly sick baby stuff. So, as for me, I'll be heading to bed now. Thanks so much to my wonderful moderators. You guys are the best. Thank you so much to Black Elk, my editor, who's also the best. Everyone who donated, Alexander, Wade, Flavius earlier, everyone else that donated, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you all tomorrow and do it again. I have a back doctor tomorrow, back doctor appointment. And then, like I said, Thursday we'll be traveling to Kentucky. So, all right, we'll talk to y'all soon. Enjoy the raid of Speakeasy. Should take a moment as we talk about all this corruption. Remember, there was more investigation and outrage and spying, etc., on Trump than there was outrage for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Almost every Democrat said he had it coming because he was a bigot or a fascist, celebrated by so many people online. Never forget that. So say a prayer tonight for Charlie and his family. And never forget, they didn't take him out because he was extreme. They took him out because he was effective. And that's what so much of the current left-wingers really feel about you. So, prayers to you, Charlie, and your family. All right, we'll talk to you all soon. Enjoy the raid of Speakeasy. As always, you guys, have a good one.
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things, for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.